Well, skis. Well, skis. Hello, everybody. Media Ghoul here. We're going to be doing a maybe interesting little stream here where we have a chit chat about something we've never discussed ever before. And I know what you think I'm about to say. Oh, Arcane. Ha ha ha. Funny little troll man. No, we're actually going to be talking about League of Legends lore. Excuse me while I push up my glasses, actually today we're going to be speaking of League of Legends lore, okay? So this is going to be a fun stream. Well, we shall see. There's going to be a lot of reading. And it's going to be interesting because I don't actually know how to read, right? So this is going to be something that I'm going to have to figure out on the fly, I guess, how to figure out what these bizarre glyphs and runes mean. We'll figure it out slowly but surely. But no, so what's the point of all this? So a few things. First and foremost, there are definitely plenty of patches in regards to League of Legends lore that has either come out since I stopped playing the game and stopped really following everything around it. Plus a nice little refresher on some of the elements that, as you can probably tell by the title and the thumbnail, some of which will be involved in the next Arcane Show. As we know, the showrunners have said that they are exploring 3 locations for the next show. That is Noxus, Ionia, and Demacia. All of which house many fantastic characters with great stories, and even the locations themselves have some pretty interesting events that happens throughout the, 10,000 year history of Runeterra, or the world that League of Legends is based in. Now, 2 things very quickly. First and foremost, obviously, if you want to go into the next Arcane Show, which is probably like 4 years away, plus probably, and you think you're still going to remember the stream after that long, then obviously probably not the one for you if you want to be surprised by every single element and have no particular expectation for what happens, then as mentioned, probably not for you because there will potentially be a huge amount of spoilers throughout the wiki. Second, it would be the reverse of exactly what I just said, which is, do bear in mind that the writers, as shown in Arcane, both Season 1 and Season 2, to be fair, but a lot of Season 2, they will happily change the lore and the canon to fit the particular story or stories that they are telling. So it will also be interesting to go through some of this and just kind of see what does change whilst the show is being written when we get to it. Because, of course, there was a few things, a few elements, few big changes to characters' backstories and canons and that kind of thing, which the League of Legends and Riot writers basically shifted their own lore to fit around that. So that's all good. That's all chill. So this won't necessarily, that's the thing, right? It could be spoilery, or it could just be, you're going to have an expectation and then that will kind of change. So, I think the biggest example for that would be a character like Victor. I saw the story going down a very particular path, and then, of course, that was changed. Some people think for the better, some people think for the worst. I think for the worse, but that's just me. Design-wise as well, my goodness gracious. Not huge on the change of how he looks. Definitely prefer the more machine herald look that he originally had. But anyway, what we shall do, as mentioned, we've got 3 locations here ready to rock and roll. So we were on Noxus, and we've got Demacia, and we've got Ionia. So the 3 locations that are being explored for the next League of Legends / Arcane Show, whatever they might call it. And for me personally, I would love to see more and more adaptations of the League of Legends world, and we can discuss whether or not it's any good after the fact, right? Because, surely there were lessons learned after Season 2. I mean, I think Season 1 was universally loved and adored, where Season 2 had many mixed opinions. Plenty of people absolutely adore it, think it's fantastic, think it's perfect. If you want evidence of that, scroll through Reddit for 5 seconds. Or look at some of the comments on my videos, right? And you'll soon figure out that the vast majority of people adore the show. So, for me, it's like, hopefully they learn some lessons, but it's kind of hard to say that they will, because they, of course, have been kind of lauded for Season 2. For Tish, I hope... for me, the best situation, right, is that there is a large investment by Netflix and Riot, or Riot and whomever may pick up a future show, be that Amazon Prime or Apple or whomever, all these large companies with a metric shit ton of money to spend on these kind of things. My hope would be that there's a large investment into Fortiche. They can create multiple studios and basically have 4-year rotational shows. So you could have, say, 2 studios spending 4 years developing shows with things coming out every 2 years, for example. I think that would be quite cool, even just for the visual spectacle, right? All writing aside, all character decisions aside, I think most of us can agree that visually the show is pretty great. The music is pretty great. Just some of those writing decisions, whatever. Anyway, enough faffing around. Let's have a start through, going through the Noxus wiki. Having a bit of a read, and just kind of see if there's anything that leaps out to us, anything that we find interesting. And then, of course, we're also going to be looking at each, so if I scroll down here for you, we're going to be going through each character from these locations as well. I can already see a couple characters that have come out since I stopped playing, who I've got no idea of, namely Briar, Kled, what? Samira, huh? Rel? That's a bit close to Mel for my liking. Ugh. Creatively bankrupt. Unbelievable. Anyway, so we'll start off with Noxus. As we know, Noxus is featured in Arcane, both Season 1 and Season 2, with Ambessa and Mel. So I think that will be an easy in to developing these other locations. Of course, my opinion would be that if we are featuring Noxus, that Mel will be the POV character, and perhaps she'll work with Swain to take down the Black Rose Society, or something to do with LeBlanc, right? With LeBlanc being the overarching villain working in the shadows kind of thing. And then you might have Mel slowly realize that Swain also isn't a cool, chill guy, and is also a bit of a wacky. So, and the reason I can see that they're using the 3 locations of Noxus, Demacia, and Ionia, not that all 3 locations would be heavily featured in any new show, but Noxus Demacia and Noxus Ionia have a lot of conflict throughout their history. Demacia, of course, being one of the few places that could stand up against Noxus, and Ionia kind of facing Noxus's wrath through characters we already know, like Singed, who does something just amazing in Ionia. And I can't wait to see it if they do that, because that would be pretty crazy. Pretty horrendous. Anyway, let's start the reading. As mentioned, I don't know how to read, so we'll figure that out as we go. Alrighty. So, Noxus is a powerful empire with a fearsome reputation. To those beyond its borders, Noxus is brutal, expansionist, and threatening. Yet those who look beyond its warlike exterior see an unusually inclusive society, where the strengths and talents of its people are respected and cultivated. Its people were once a fierce Reaver culture until they stormed the ancient city that now lies at the heart of their empire. Under threat from all sides, they aggressively took the fight to their enemies, pushing their borders outward with every passing year. The struggle for survival has made Noxus a deeply proud people who value strength above all, though that strength can manifest by many different means. Anyone can rise to a position of power and respect within Noxus if they display the necessary aptitude, regardless of social standing, background, homeland, or wealth. So interesting little piece there. It seems like very polar opposite to Piltover, as us Arcane fans know of Piltover, the city of progress, not warlike, not expansionist, and very classist. Right, like if you're born into the right family, you're going to have a great time. If you're not, you're kind of screwed. You do have some examples of individuals being uplifted, again, like Victor, a kid from Zorn, from the Undercity, who rose up within the academy, and of course a character like Jace, who not necessarily was born into an incredibly affluent or powerful family, but through connections that he had, managed to rise up to become a council member, and the man of progress, right? Whereas it seems here Noxus specifically is a little bit more loosey-goosey, with that being more like, hey, if you're strong and you can show me that you are stronger, you're going to have a good time here in old Noxus, right? So yeah, interesting, because again, the face, the facade, the face of Noxus is big, bad, scary, fascist, Nazi expansionists, but the reality is, if you are a Noxian, you have potentially, interestingly, more opportunity than, say, the average Piltovan or Zornite individual. Zorn, of course, that's, complaints there. It's kind of understandable why Zornites are treated the way they are because of the classism that goes on in that area. Noxus, of course, being slightly different. So, that's just the same stuff. So we've also got, it mentioned there, the original peoples, so from my understanding, which we'll probably get to when we get to old vampire Vladimir and LeBlanc's backstory, but they were barbarians who through, I think they were called the Noxi, who praised Vladimir as a god, and Vladimir and LeBlanc basically worked to set up Noxus, which is just wonderful. Isn't that just fantastic? So we've got here in the history, which we've got these just kind of little bits and pieces going through the history of Noxus, which what I see here would be they would pick and choose particular events or even just one event and cover that quite closely in any show that they're doing. But we'll go through the history of Noxus, and then, as mentioned, we'll be going through the characters. I'll probably skip Ambessa and Mel. We already know them very well, so that is perfectly fine. And Ambessa is dead, so, who gives a stinky winky. Anyway, so, Age of Tyranny. After the Great Darken War, which I believe the Darken are entities that have been trapped or imprisoned in weapons. So they're living weapons, quote unquote. We'll get a better description of those later on, I'm sure. But after the Great Darken War left the world in ruin many centuries ago, a coven of sorcerers were formed, united by the whispers of a long-dead soul who promised giving his strength to any who brought him back. He spurred them to make him stronger than any mortal, binding his spirit form in dark metal plates, wrought in the likeness of his old armour. That's definitely Mordekaiser. These power-hungry sorcerers had hoped to use the Conqueror, San Uzal, as a weapon in their wars. Instead, the reborn spirits slew them where they stood, their weapons and magic useless against him. From the fearful, dissipating souls of the sorcerers, San Uzul or Zal, known as the Iron Revenant Mordekaiser, forged his brutal mace, Nightfall, and after gathering a new cult of acolytes who would obey his every command, used his new necromantic powers to resurrect the fallen soldiers from his past life as undead shadows. Among these were a demonic servant, Atakan, whom he tortured and forcefully bound in front of his followers, and when his army was complete, he embarked on his conquest over Valoran, crushing and enslaving any who would oppose his rule. At the centre of his empire, in the territories in which his first campaign had taken place, Mordekaiser raised the immortal Bastion, which would become the source of his power and held the countless forbidden arcane secrets that he gathered over his conquests. To his foes, it seemed he cared only for massacre and destruction. Entire generations perished under his relentless campaigns. Such tyranny could only bring him enemies, and at the height of his power, Mordekaiser was betrayed by a sorceress from his inner circle, Sorcio LeBlancy, who had conspired against him with the blood mage Vladimir. Yeah, so Vlad and LeBlanc doing their thing in the background, probably like 1,000 years ago, and are still doing their thing in the background 1,000 years later, who demanded worship from the fierce but fractured barbarian tribes of the eastern coastal cliffs, known as the Noxus. Yeah. LeBlanc and Vladimir saw opportunity in the brewing conflict and supported the Noxus alliance against Mordekaiser, who banded together and marched on the ancient city of the immortal Bastion. After many long centuries of tyranny, LeBlanc and Vladimir sealed Mordekaiser away and stole his dark magic, including his demonic servants Atakan and Tybalk. The united Noxus tribes took control of the immortal Bastion without realizing that Mordekaiser's dark power still stirred within the fortress's heart. So, if LeBlanc and Vladimir are featured in the new show, and they are like the kind of overarching villains working in the background. If any of this is shown, it would just kind of be like maybe a flashback setup for these guys, and then maybe setting up Mordekaiser as more of like an overarching threat. Again, I've mentioned it in previous streams where they could go down the Marvel route, and by Marvel route, I don't mean release a whole bunch of fantastic movies and then release a whole bunch of absolutely terrible pieces of poopy. What I mean is they can like set up Mordekaiser as like a Thanos, how the movies like did little bits and pieces to set up the overarching threat, and then there are pieces of media that are dedicated wholly to all the characters and locations that we've set up dealing with that particular threat, right? Definitely, of course, not the plan at the moment. As I said, I could see it going down that path if they wanted to do this big multimedia style storytelling. Again, much like the first 10 years of Marvel. But we will have to see. We will have to see. It may be much more contained stories without much interconnection. Again, as I said before, there are a few characters who overlap with some of these locations. Like Noxus should get singed again if we had the chem bomb in Ionia. Plus you've got like Caitlyn investigating Noxian spies in Piltover. So there's like a few characters that could leap around that we've seen and we've known before. As you all know, Jinx is still alive and is out there somewhere, probably going to Demacia to do the light cannon ship, right, guys? We all know that. Haha, hee hee, tee hee. Anyway, next piece, Aftermath of the Rune Wars. So much was lost to history, What was that? Oh, yeah. So much was lost to history during the ancient rune wars. As entire civilizations fell, the Noxi took shelter within the immortal bastion, which continued to stand long after the conflict had ended. After they emerged, the Noxi found themselves a city besieged by outside forces and under threat from all sides. The Noxi invaded and subjugated their enemies under their new banner. They called their new empire Noxus, prizing of strength above all. Wait a minute. They called their new empire Noxus, prizing of strength above all, with every person being given an equal chance on the battlefield regardless of background, homeland, or wealth. To lead them in their conquest, the Noxians elected a Grand General, who would also serve as the leader of Noxus itself. The Noxians continued to struggle for survival. The Noxians' continued struggle for survival made them a deeply proud and warlike people, and with every passing year, the Empire's borders expanded. That's pretty naughty. Over the centuries, however, many Noxians obtained riches and some acclamated power that spat in the face of the Noxian principles. Unbeknownst to most in Noxus, a hidden cabal known as the Black Rose had corrupted the Empire's heart, taken control over parts of the nation's nobility, its military, and even the Grand General who sat on its Iron Throne. Whoa, Game of Thrones, guys? Whoa! I didn't know it shared the same universe. Wow, gee willikers. LeBlanc and Vladimir continued to manipulate the Empire of Noxus from the shadows, recruiting many of the aristocracy into their ranks, and they were responsible for a number of its most significant military campaigns. So, like, a lot of what Noxus does is being puppeted by the Black Rose and specifically by LeBlanc and Vladimir. Again, it's like an easy kind of overarching background villain for this next particular show. Would be the Black Rose, would be LeBlanc and Vladimir. And you know, you've got these two incredibly powerful mages. LeBlanc over 1,000 years old, Vladimir probably much older. I mean, again, when LeBlanc went to meet Vladimir to work with the Noxi to take Noxus proper, Vladimir was being praised as like a god. So he had clearly been around for quite some time, using blood magic and ritual to keep himself young and keep himself basically like immortal, quote unquote. So next piece, Death to the King. Over a century ago, the brutal warlord Scion, I just want to see Scion's thing. I want to see his backstory. I want to see him do a berserk guts. I'm too angry to die, so I'm going to kill every single one of you. I hope I see that, man. I really want to see that. Oh dear. All right. Over a century ago, the brutal warlord Scion rose to prominence as he won many vicious triumphs for Noxus. He was the last of a proud warrior culture that had been part of Noxus since its founding, and swore to his ancestors to die a proud warrior's death. The Empire's might was at a peak, not seen for hundreds of years, and so it took the generals of high command by surprise when Demacia first resisted their western invasions, then began pushing back their steady advance. These Demacians drove the Noxian warbands eastward, harrying them back behind the walls of Havardis. Scion, who had been campaigning in the Argent Mountains, turned south, right? So you've got there like the first notable empire that has been able to withstand and stand against these Noxian invaders, kind of pushing their walls and their territories out. Basically, like in my mind, they just stomp over every single little town, city, empire, society, all throughout the region until they come into Demacian land, and they just basically come up against a brick wall, and that brick wall being the Demacian military. We'll get the Demacian backstory later, but I believe from memory, like they survived, like their empire survived the ancient rune wars. because they have magic trees. Their trees are really cool. And then that's basically given them a lot of time to build their military and become like a pretty incredible defensive force. I don't know how much Demacia invades, if anything. I think they're more defensive, but we'll get that when we get their backstory, right? He arrived at the city to find Demacians on the horizon preparing to return home. Sion readied his troops, but the Noxian commander at Havardis had already suffered several defeats to the enemy and was content to let them return home. Outraged, Sion hurled the commander from the city walls and ordered the attack. He's a nice guy. So, Sion's backstory is going to be great if we do get to see it, because he's just such a nice guy. But while Sion's warband charged with him, the ones who had been cowering in Havardis retreated back into the city, leaving Sion and his trusted few surrounded. One by one, they fell, but Sion reached to Jarvan, who's the king, or the prince, and fought brutally. With a final burst of strength, Sion clamped one hand around the king's throat, being stabbed by Jarvan's guard again and again, but only when the enemy king was slain did Sion allow death to claim him. Because that would be so good to see, man. That'd be so sick to see. Like, you've got like 6 or 7 of Jarvan's guards, like just cutting him up, yelling and screaming, and he's just like, nah, boys. Sorry, soz boys. I just need this Jarvan guy to die, alright? Soz about it. His body was recovered, along with the Demacian king's crown, and borne back to the immortal bastion in honor. Noxus mourned Sion's passing, and his corpse was interred with a towering monument constructed to honor him for all time. The lands between the Argent Mountains would since be contested by Noxus, creating an almost lawless frontier full of foreign reavers and warring tribes, which would lead to a greater action of Demacia defending their allies, and the establishment of a rivalry between them and Noxus that would last for centuries. So, like we could get, again, if we have Sion as a character, we could easily get this as a sequence or a scene, like showing off his backstory when he was a mortal man, because Sion is, spoilers, not a mortal man, basically, anymore. He has been risen from the dead, which we'll see in Sion's backstory, of course, and is quite a threat. Alright. Especially when he ults, man. When he starts running, ain't no stopping him. Which I don't know about any of you League guys, but I kind of, it's one of the few things, the Sion rework, I just find his ult so funny. I'm just going to start running. And I ain't stopping till I bash the shit out of someone. Alright, Invasion of Ionia. Something that we may see in the show proper, if, again, it is true that they are covering all 3 locations. Or, again, let's say it's focused on Noxus. We could get set up for Demacia, set up for Ionia, and then move into other shows that cover those particular areas, and linking them with something like this, like the Invasion of Ionia. So, from its formation, the residents of Ionia preferred to pursue personal enlightenment instead of waging constant battles with other nations. Isn't that just so idealistic? Oh no, we don't like to fight, actually. We just like to be enlightened, darling. Okay, alright. The militaristic nation of Noxus saw their weakness as an opportunity. Noxian spies began to trade aggressively with the Ionians, travelling through provinces to study its weaknesses and identify critical targets. Not long after, the war hosts set sail for Ionia as part of the long-planned Noxian invasion. The invasion began in Navori, the central province of Ionia. Many villages and settlements fell, and thousands of Ionians died as their magical artifacts were stolen to extend the life of their mad emperor. This aggression forced the religious leader Karma, it's a pretty fun character to play, known for her peaceful teachings, to fight back. Across Navori, dissenting voices began to band together. A resistance was forming, one that would not rest until Ionia was free once more. I mean, going through that, like, the show might even pick up during that conflict instead of the actual invasion, right? Which that'll be an interesting way to tie them together, right? You start with Ionia already being like partially conquered, and then you show the uprising within the individuals from Ionia kind of fighting back against the Noxian host. At one of the most important points of the war, a war host led by Jericho Swain, who's not important at all, and just, don't even worry about him, he's fine, captured the Placidium and took its defenders hostage, hoping to lure the inevitable reinforcements into a trap. But a 14-year-old girl named Aurelia, another very fun character to play, unleashed the power of the ancient Ionian dancers and threw... Oh, sorry. The reason I'm laughing is I'm just thinking like this huge, brutal, militaristic regime coming through, and like Jericho Swain at the host of it, and then this 14-year-old girl just runs out and starts doing Fortnite dances and beats them. Like, oh no, whatever are we gonna do? Oh dear. Anyway, unleashed the power of ancient Ionian dancers, and through it, the power of Ionia itself upon the Noxians. A dozen of Swain's veterans fell, sowing chaos in their ranks, as the other captors joined her with their Fortnite. They started joining the Fortnite dance, right? Before Aurelia struck down the general himself. The sight of this rebellious girl hefting his severed arm over his head would be the turning point of the war. So Swain's lost his arm because a 14-year-old girl started Fortnite dancing. Can't wait to see that. Or maybe it was the Macarena. Who knows? This is in the past, right? So it's probably more the Macarena that got him, yeah. The growing resistance was led by Aurelia for almost 3 years, and this is also like, oh my god, like fantasy up the wazoo. Little 14-year-old girl. Well, actually, no. How old was Joan of Arc, right? Super young, right? So, I mean, I take that back, actually. Sometimes young girls can be very inspiring, all right? All right. The growing resistance was led by Aurelia for almost 3 years of war, but as Ionia united in resistance, Noxus doubled their war efforts. Children were sent in as foot soldiers, yikes, trying to exploit the Ionian mercy. Oh yeah, I mean, like, that's, as horrendous as that is, right, that's ever so slightly smart. To be like, yeah, we're the horrendous bloodthirsty Noxians, right? We don't give a shit. So we're gonna send children on the front line because these, Ionians are probably not gonna want to slaughter a bunch of kids, right? They're gonna have to think of different tactics. Was trying to exploit Ionian mercy, and chem tech bombs bought from an infamous Zornite alchemist, who we all know is Singed, bombarded both Ionians and Noxians, right? So they were bombing their own people, basically like chemical warfare. These chemtech bombs absolutely, do quite a bit of damage, which we'll probably get to at some point. Those chem bombs had gruesome effect, on the lands. Perhaps the place where these consequences are most notable is the Wuju village, where rumours of a one-man army caught Noxian attention. Yes, he is most assuredly a one-man army, that's for sure. In a single night, the entire village was destroyed, its people and culture obliterated by chemical fire. Even now, years after the end of the war, nothing can grow on this land, and the souls of those who died on that horrible night lay trapped by the corrupted magics of their own land. Jenkies, Batman, that's no good. The war was ended when Swain, who's not important, don't worry about him, with the might of a raven demon and many allies, including Draven, killed Darkwill and established the Trifarix. he pulled back the war hosts from Darkwill's unwinnable campaigns, ending the war with Ionia. However, Noxian presence remains, as many Ionian regions are still under Noxian rule. Gosh, such naughty boys, right? Such naughty boys. But yeah, if we see, again, like, if the Noxian, or at least the Noxian part of the upcoming show, is also covering Swain's, like, uprising to power, then I think a lot of this would be covered, right? And that would also allow, like, Mel, as the POV character that we follow, to follow Swain, not really kind of realizing the type of individual he is and the type of power he gets. But we also just kind of get a little hint there with the might of a raven demon, right? Oh my. That seems normal. Again, Game of Thrones, bro. Got the three-eyed crow rocking around here. Goodness me. The Battle of Bard Mountain. So, Noxian troops tried to capture Bard Mountain and obtain a valuable magical artifact kept by the locals. During the battle, the village sage was tasked to take the artifact to one of the celestial shrines on top of the mountain. The Noxians mortally wounded him with arrows before he could reach the shrine, but as his last act of defiance, he used the artifact to strike his would-be killer, obliterating him and slicing a nearby peak in half. The misuse of the artifact's power had drawn the attention of a celestial being, that's Bard, he's just called Bard, who promptly intervened in the event. He retrieved the artifact and took it away from the mortal plane before the Noxians and Ionians could use its power of war, for war. So I don't think we'd see that, right? It would be quite a thing to introduce Bard and maybe even the Celestials. You know, they were kind of steering quite clear from a lot of that stuff, especially season 1, of course. But even season 2, like the craziest things we see is obviously like Victor doing his thing. When of course the reality is in Runeterra we have some pretty immensely powerful characters, and that can kind of muddy the waters of a show. Depending if you want more of the quote-unquote human focus, quote-unquote, on a show like that. I mean, we could see some Celestials and stuff like that, but like they were clearly steering clear of it. Even like Aurelian Soul, they clearly didn't want anything like that rocking around, when the reality is the night sky above Piltover, every time it's nighttime and you see the stars, that's Aurelian Soul, big dragon, celestial god creature that created the sun and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, the campaign and the Freljord. So, oh man, the Freljord would make a good show, in my opinion. A lot of stuff going on there. Ashe, you know, Tryndamere, oh my gosh, Spin to Win, oh my gosh. Anyway, after a grinding victory against the cloudless fortress of Varju, a proud warrior people who had resisted decades of Noxian aggression, Darius was named the Hand of Noxus by Emperor Borim Darkwill himself. Those who knew Darius best knew he craved neither power nor adulation. He wished merely to see Noxus triumph over all. So Darkwill ordered him and his war hosts far north until the Freljord in a campaign to break through in the borderline in this frozen territory. The troll tribes, at the hand of King Trundle, challenged the Noxian invader in a duel between the king himself against General Darius, which, as we see that in the Bite Marks trailer, that recently came out for the new season of League of Legends, which again, that just kind of made me think, you know, we're showing off a bit of a roster here for characters that would potentially be in a new show. Darius, of course, would be in a new show. He's kind of important, not for necessarily events, but to kind of show off, you know, a lot of the layers that are going on in Noxus proper. because you have his daughter, what his daughter does to his wife. You have his wife with her opinion. You have him maybe slowly realizing the corruption in Noxus. You got a few things that you could do with him. But yeah, we basically saw that 1v1 go down in the Bite Marks trailer that recently came out. The latter, against General Darius, the latter being victorious by knocking out with his axe, affected by the true ice of Trundle's mallet. Due to the successful process, he finally began to assault. He finally began to assault to the. Oh wait, no, that's not me tripping. Is that the writing? Due to the successful process, he finally began to assault to the barbarian tribe's 2 heal. There's a couple extra 2s in there. WTF skis? Come on, y'all, you got one job. The campaign dragged on for years, ending in a bitter, icy stalemate. Darius narrowly survived assassination attempts, ambushes, and even capture by the vicious Winter's Claw. He was growing weary of endless wars of attrition and returned to Noxus to demand a reconsolidation of the military. He marched his veterans into the capital, only to find that Noxus itself was fighting an internal war. Oh God! Oh my gosh! So that would be the Trifarix Revolution. After Swain's discharge, following the Battle of Placidum, or Placidusax from Elden Ring, he came to know the Black Rose was still operating and puppeting the actions of Darkwill, betraying him to death in the battlefields of Ionia. After many years of preparation and the reunion of many allies such as Draven and General du Cotard, or du Quattor, or du Cotieu. I think that's how it is, right? Du Cotieu, mate. Swain managed to kill the Emperor of Noxus in a single night, with the newfound power of the ancient demon lying within the immortal Bastion. Swain's a naughty boy. He's a naughty boy. Reaching the capital, Darius found himself in a difficult position. As Hand, many of the noble houses would expect Darius to avenge Darkwill, but he had known and greatly respected the disgraced General Swain, and had spoken against his discharge after the botched invasion in Ionia 3 years earlier. The oaths of the Hand were to Noxus, not any particular ruler, and Swain was a man who spoke honestly of his new vision for the Empire. Darius realized this was a leader he was prepared to follow, but Swain had other ideas. With the establishment of the Trifarix, 3 individuals would rule Noxus together, each embodying one principle of strength, vision, and might. Vision, might, and guile. Known as Faceless, true identity unknown. Oh my. How scary. Darius gladly accepted his place on this council and pledged to raise a new elite force, the Trifarian Legion, the most loyal and prestigious warriors the Empire could produce, and lead the armies of Noxus into a glorious new age of conquest. That's a lot of like backstory to set up some of these characters, again, depending on the timeline of the show, because like if we go down here, we've got Progress Day, right? So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's quite a bit of setup. I wonder if they, like, again, if we're focusing on, say, Noxus, for example, if the show starts in the past and then maybe at some point it meets up, like we see, like halfway through the show, Mel appears or Ambisa leaves or something like that. Like you could set that up by, say, without having like a screen that says 5 years earlier, you could see Ambisa, but she's young and pregnant or something like that. Well, it would need to be a little bit more than 5 years, but anyway. The shedding of skin. Oh, God. Sounds terrible. While Darkwill's wars raged on, the Black Rose's influence reached out to Shurima. Oh, Shurima also would make a fantastic show. Come on, y'all, let's get to it. Out to Shurima through Shurina du Cotier and her daughter Cassiopeia, oh my, or Cassiopeia. But their efforts were made more urgent when word reached Uzeris of Jericho Swain's coup. What? I don't know what that word means. Carried out with the help of General du Couture. I'm quite certain that's how you say his name. Outraged by her husband's betrayal and fearing for the Black Rose, Sorana dispatched Cassiopeia to seek out their ultimate goal in Shurima, the godlike power that had been the key to the Shuriman Empire's supremacy, like the Sun Gates and stuff like that. Upon unearthing the tomb of the emperors, Cassiopeia, I'm just going to say Cassiopeia, knew this would be the threshold of the powers she sought and intended to kill all witnesses from her expedition before claiming it. The guide, Siva, I played a lot of Siva. She is very fun, throwing her little discus. Oh man, I quite liked playing her actually. So Siva was the first to fall to Cassiopeia's blade, but then an ancient stone tomb guardian reared up and buried its fangs into her flesh. That's a loud motorbike. Overcome by its arcane toxins, she was carried back through the desert by her hired soldiers, screaming as her body twisted into something new and unspeakable. Upon her return from the desert, Cassiopeia had hidden in her family's crypt, fearful of her cursed transformation. She remained alone in the vault for weeks, filled with disgust for her serpentine body and mourning the loss of her aristocratic life. Eventually, a growing desire to hunt overwhelmed her, and she ventured out into the night as the household slumbered to kill those who deserved death in her eyes. Cassiopeia knew she had unearthed the magic of dead Shuriman gods, and she would turn it to the schemes of the Black Rose, just as she and her mother had planned. Right, so she goes off. Her sister is Katerina, I believe. I could be wrong. I believe, which we'll get to Katerina. But basically, Cassiopeia, rich aristocrat, who basically went to uncover an ancient tomb of it's basically like going to Egypt, right, and breaking into the pyramids to get some kind of magical artifact, but was then infused by magic and basically becomes like a Gorgon or like a Medusa. So like a serpentine body, snaky hair. It's literally Medusa, right? That was obviously the core inspiration for Cassiopeia as a character. And it also makes complete sense that she would be working with the Black Rose, especially after a transformation like that, right? So we then got the Demacian invasion. When the Demacian Prince Jarvan IV received the honorary rank of general, he marched to the lands beyond the Argent Mountains to bring stability to the almost lawless frontier created by Noxian presence. In response, the newly established Triferian Legion was sent to the Gates of Mourning, a standing outpost close to the westernmost Noxian border. After Diodoro, some of these names, man. After Diodoro, from the dauntless vanguard, held the Gates of Mourning for an entire day, they fell to the Triferian Legion. General Granth would later be honoured as a hero of this battle, even though he knew the gates fell to the Legion, and the honorifics? Okay, that's a weird way of doing it. And the honorifics given by Swain were an insult, one that would bloom in his heart as a pale woman reached out to him. Is that LeBlanc? An icon representing LeBlanc. Yeah. LeBlanc, the pale woman. Gosh. When word came that the Gates of Mourning had fallen, Jarvan resolved to drive onward into Noxian territory against the advice of his lieutenants. Inevitably, with the battalion spread so thin, Jarvan was encircled and defeated by Noxian warbands before he even reached Travail. Refusing to surrender, the prince and a handful of other survivors fled into the forests, only to be hounded for days by the Noxians. Eventually pierced through his side by an arrow, Jarvan collapsed into the shade of a fallen tree, where he would be saved by a purple-skinned woman that looks like the dragon lady, right? What's her name again? Shyvana, right. So Shyvana can turn into a dragon, or a dragon can turn into Shyvana. I don't know which way it is. Could be either, could be both, could be neither. Truly only God knows. Alright. Progress Day. 2 Noxian War Masons, warrior spies, Tamara and Colette, infiltrated Piltover for many months in hopes of placing an agent inside Clan Medada. They used the annual Progress Day to showcase their technical skills to the clan's masters and apprentice. Like apprentices, I guess. Tamara Luatari showcased her Hex Armillary Amplifier invention. It worked by harnessing the properties of a crystal and exponentially increasing its output. However, the invention itself proved to be dangerous, as it almost destroyed the entire hall due to its faulty construction. God, what a dumb bitch, right, guys? God. Which was intended to sabotage the proceedings, you fool! Later on, after leaving the Medada mansion, Tamara was apprehended by Caitlyn. Oh, guys, we all know Caitlyn, right? Who had discovered her true identity and purpose in the city. She was subsequently banished and sent back to Noxus. Both Tamara and Gysbert... What? Who's Gysbert? Wait. I'll just add in you. Both Tamara and Gysbert... I thought it was Colette. Failed to become the Dada apprentice. Oh, there we go. But Colette succeeded. Sometime after, Colette would obtain a Medada trading map, which she would relay to Noxian intelligence. And at the edge of the world, the jungles of Shurima are a frontier that the most ambitious generals would dearly love to claim for Noxus. Having petitioned Noxian High Command no fewer than 7 times, Fleet Officer Tomiri is fine. This is getting to like me whenever I DM Dungeons and Dragons and have to just make up names on the fly. It's Tom, but fantasy Tom. Tomiri, yahoo! Tommy Rye is finally summoned to the capital to receive a commission of her own. Tommy Rye oversees her vessel's final preparations before learning that the expedition is to be joined by the renowned reckoning beast hunter Nayanda Ordala. These names! Nayanda Ordala. After many days at sea, the Ardentuous enters the Serpentine Delta. This is Tommy Wiry first real glimpse into the wilderness that awaits her and her crew. The jungle does not treat foreign invaders kindly. Unable to find their bearings or any quarry for their beast hunters, the Noxians' morale and discipline begins to falter. That's all it takes, bro. Really? To break Noxian bloody discipline? Really? Okay. Anyway, the blood of Noxus. The warlike veteran Quitella Van, steward of... Oh my god. Steward of Basilic, at the time, rebelled against Noxus, forcing the Might of Noxus, Quitella's childhood friend and ex-lover, himself to come to the city, together with Draven and the war mason Tamara. Against Tamara's advice, Draven leads a force against the city, which is held back by archers and a gunpowder bomb. Oh my. Is that Ziggs? Is that Ziggs? Oh my god. Which, let's be frank and beans here, I was really hoping to see Ziggs in Season 2, but whatever, you know. I've put like hundreds of hours into Ziggs, but whatever, it's fine. I don't care. After the defeat, Darius goes to the Black Rock Mare. It's one of those, I'm sure. A lake full that reminded him of his time with Quilletta. He did so knowing an assassin would be ready to kill him, and so brought Draven hidden with him. Going back to Basilich, with the assassin's head, Darius and Draven faced Quilletta and her second-in-command, Invetia Van. It is revealed that Decius, Quilletta's son, died in the campaign against the Freljord by Darius's call to arms. And there is potential, of course, that that's also Darius's son, potentially. A discussion about how Noxus must conquer and no city can rebel without paying the price arises. Suddenly, ships from Vindor are seen in the distance. Quilletta affirms that Steward Amensk stands at her side and is bringing his warriors to help her. But due to the Trifarian Legion's forces on Vindor, Amensk betrayed Quilletta, and was actually coming to help Darius. Running out of options, Quilletta tries to tell Darius that Decius was not only her son, but also Darius's. Invetia Van, her own daughter, and hinted to also be Darius's by Swain's interaction, kills her before she finishes, becoming steward of Basilich and ending the rebellion, right? So that's kind of like, whoa, what? So this lady, potentially, her son is also Darius's, and Decius died during the Freljordian invasion. So then he comes home, and then this bitch just straight up ends her, right? Her own daughter. Potentially Darius's daughter as well, right? So that would be quite a dramatic moment for a television show, I think. Second invasion of Ionia. In the near future, Noxus will start its second attempt to conquer Ionia, with Scion joining the cause. They are met with resistance led by Aurelia in the seaside village. Scion manages to overpower Aurelia, while the Noxian army is decimating Ionian farmers, but the arrival of Akali, I think it's pronounced, Karma, Keenan, and Yasuo, the Wind Boy, ultimately turns the tide of the battle, which I think we get in a trailer that was released. I think we see that. And that seems like something, like if they weren't doing the first invasion in the show, that they'd probably be doing that one, right? Because we've also got barely a paragraph on it, right? So they could definitely flesh that out like cray. Alrighty, so we've got all these locations and that kind of thing, but we don't really need to go through a lot of that. We're just going through these kind of core events for the city of Noxus. And now we'll start having a look at some of these characters, right? Doing the same thing. Alrighty, so we do have some people as well, and by some people I just mean like 5 people on Reddit, but that's also enough to get the discussion going, that Briar, maybe gosh darn Isha, oh my god! Wouldn't that be cray? It would be crazy, yes. But we'll see if there's anything here that makes us think, oh, well, maybe there's more to it. I don't think so, though, but we shall see. So, Briar, a failed experiment by the Black Rose. Briar's uncontrollable bloodlust requires a special pillory to focus her frenzied mind. After years of confinement, this living weapon broke free from her restraints and unleashed herself into the world. Yeah, that sounds like Isha, alright. Now she's controlled by no one, following only her hunger for knowledge and blood, and relishes the opportunities to let loose, even if reining back the frenzy isn't easy. So her alias is the Restrained Hunger. It's a pretty great name, actually. Pretty great title. So, yeah, we'll go through... Yeah, so we've just got some little bits and pieces to go through here. So, background. Briar was created near the end of the Borum Darkwall's reign. So yeah, that's like... Oh yeah, that sounds like Isha to me. Yes, Isha, very old. Very old. Older than Jinx. Okay. By the Black Rose's Hemomancers. She was designed to be a new type of living weapon created purely out of blood magic and not requiring sustenance to survive. Though designed to be a perfect assassin, Briar was completely driven by a hunger for blood. Like, I wonder if this was almost... Oh no, the timing wouldn't work, right? I'm just trying to think if this was maybe like the Black Rose's answer to Katarina, but I don't think the timeline works there. Anyway. Though designed to be a perfect assassin, Briar was completely driven by a hunger for blood, entering a constant state of hemomania. Goodness me. Hemomania. Despite this, the Black Rose sent Briar off on her first mission, which ended in a gory failure as Briar entered a frenzy and killed everyone indiscriminately. That would make a great scene, right? Oh, poor girl. Alrighty. Realizing she was too dangerous to control, the Black Rose created a special pillory with the Hemelith gemstone to both restrain and focus her mind, taming her hemomanic instincts completely. When the disgraced General Jericho Swain began his coup over the Noxian Empire, the Black Rose quickly deployed many of their living weapons and experiments to fight him off. Briar was deployed among them, and had the special job of killing Swain himself. Once she was given to a handler to help direct her, Briar was released from her pillory and immediately devoured him and everyone around. Oh, what a great little character. Unfortunately, Swain managed to escape her bloody frenzy, and his guards managed to capture her, restoring Briar's pillory. Now restrained, Swain was able to transfer Briar to a holding facility, locking her in a cell with many other living experiments that had been employed by the Black Rose. Jeepers, I think that would be a great character to have in the show, actually. Even just based off that, again, the connections to the Black Rose, having like this manic, like nutso assassin, maybe like hunting down Mel or something like that. That would be quite cool, man. Quite like that. Coming to terms with her nature. Alone in her cell, Briar was... Oh, actually, just thinking about it. No, I don't want her actually to be in the show, because I can guarantee you they'll jinx her, right? She'll be this crazy person, and then it'll be like, oh, actually, I'm just misunderstood and I'm quite traumatized, but now I'm okay. I'm alright. I drank a sip of water. Now, blood is like, ugh, I'm not really into it anymore. Ugh. Alone in her cell, Briar was unable to die from starvation and simply focused on her hunger. Initially thinking the many crazed wails of the neighbouring cells were her own voices, Briar came to realise they were other living weapons like her that were captured. While listening to them, however, she began to realise how boring and single-minded her neighbours were. Not wishing to become like them, Briar instead decided to seclude herself in solitude within her cell. Briar sat in solitary confinement for years, finding entertainment in eavesdropping on her guards' conversations, pestering them for raw meat and agonizing whether she should race her pet spiders or eat them. Okay. Strange. Race her pet spiders or eat them. She would eventually wander about the world outside her cell, and while toying with her restraint, managed to loosen the Hemelith in her pillory. She thought about the neighbouring hemomaniacs and their simple-minded hunger for blood, and decided that she wanted to be something more, finding a balance between calm and frenzied. Oh god. Look at that pic. Goodness me. That's pretty good. Now, with a newfound purpose, Briar wanted to finally see the outside world and devised a plan to escape her prison. Though the guards were used to her calling for attention, one particular guard was lured closer to Briar's cell, allowing her to attack him and feast on his blood, giving her enough strength to break out. Eager and excited to escape, Briar quickly befriended a young janitor, oh god, who she mistakenly assumed was escaping with her. I'm just here to clean the toilets, ma'am. I'm not trying to... Oh god. When she saw the prison guards roughly shove the janitor away to safely, Briar got angry and managed to break her pillory, going into a hemomanic frenzy and brutally defeating many of the guards while trying to follow her new janitor friend. Once outside of the prison gates, Briar reconstructed her pillory and gazed... I mean, that's pretty handy, right? If you can just remove the pillory, basically, the function, go crazy, and then put it back together. That's kind of OP, right? Goodness me. Briar reconstructed her pillory and gazed at the outside world, free to explore the world beyond, and feast on all the blood she wants. Now she wanders the streets of Noxus, learning more about the world beyond her cell and wishing to make new friends. The Black Rose, curious about Briar's unexpected development, have been secretly monitoring their living weapon for currently unknown purposes. I think this would make a great character, man. I think we've got a lot going on here. Again, this is a character that came out after I stopped playing League, so I didn't really know much or anything about her. That's quite cool. Briar is a pale humanoid girl with grey skin and white hair dyed with blood. Dyed with blood? Yeah. Jinkies, Batman. That's freaking metal, bro. Her eyes are cataracted with huge white pupils resembling the full moon and bright pink sclera. Briar's claws and teeth are incredibly sharp, and she has pointed ears resembling a bat's. There are metal bolts in her shoulder blades capable of emitting magical energy for propulsion. Really? She appears very thin and almost emaciated, but her bottom half is a bit heavier. Oh, so she got that junkie. She got that junkie in the trunkie, is what they're trying to say. Oh, she is... She's literally emaciated apart from her ass, right? Is that what you're trying to say? She wears a black corset-like outfit adorned with many black leather straps and some red wax seals on the belts on her hip. Her bottom half simply has some black bandages covering her legs, leaving her feet bare with metal stakes stabbing through her ankles. Oh my god! Yikes. She is restrained by an arch-shaped pillory adorned with many spikes and runic symbols that glow a dark red, held together by a hemolith green gemstone in the middle of it. In her hemomanic state, Briar shatters her pillory, and her hair stands on end. So she turns Super Saiyan, that's what you're trying to tell me. Her face morphs into a savage expression with glowing red eyes and extended tongue. The cuffs of her pillory form shape red daggers, which can be empowered with blood magic and become longer blades made of blood. That is sick as, man. Let me get a... Do you see the... It's got metal... Oh, I can see it in her ankles. Owie zowie. Yikes, man. And that's the pillory. Yeah. Oh, that's really cool, man. It's quite an interesting character. But that is hilarious. Yeah, she's emaciated, but she's got a fat ass. That's literally what it says here. Oh, God, that's hilarious. We don't need to know her abilities, relations. So you got the Black Rose, Vladimir, Borum, Darkwill, Jericho, and Scion. So let's have a quick look here. So Briar was created by the Black Rose's hemomancers as a living weapon after she proved to be too dangerous to keep unrestrained after her first mission failed. So yeah, it looks like this is just literally all from her backstory there, which we've already read. So with Vladimir, Briar was created with hemomancy, magic art strongly tied to Vladimir. Briar somewhat considers Vladimir her dad. Interesting. Though she questions whether or not to actually call him that. And that makes sense, right? If you were birthed almost through Vladimir's magic, that would be kind of understandable. annotated sketch used for Briar's splash art states that she is at Vladimir's castle acting as a guard dog. Whether this is true for the character is unclear. However, it does imply a possible relationship between the two after Briar's escape. So, Darkwill is the one who entrusted the Black Rose. Yep. Eventually, yep. Briar was sent to kill Swain. Yep, which we just did in the backstory. Managed to kill everyone. Swain managed to escape. His guards captured and restored. Yep. So this should be new, though. Scion is another hemomancy experiment conducted by the Black Rose as they attempted to revive him using blood magic. As one of their many experiments, Scion was also imprisoned in the same facility as Briar. Okay. Being held in a cell neighbouring hers. Scion was one of the many experiments that annoyed Briar during her imprisonment, seeing him as boring and simple. Scion is pretty boring and simple, but it's a cool character, right? Their exact relationship isn't entirely known, but Briar seems disappointed and annoyed to see that Scion escaped the facility as well. Cool, man. That's again, this is a character that came out post me stopping the play. Oh, so does the frenzy... Oh, I see. So the frenzy looks different. Yeah, I'm not too hot on that. Definitely prefer this style. I'm sure if she was in the show, they'd change it up slightly. I'm sure as they did with Warwick. All right, so that's Briar. And they've got Cassiopeia. Alrighty. So that's Cassiopeia. What she looks like in the game. Oh my. Oh, she's so hot right now. And gosh, she's even hotter now. Oh my god, guys. Alrighty, so Cassiopeia is a deadly creature bent on manipulating others to her will. Youngest and most beautiful daughter of the noble Du Couture family of Noxus. She ventured deep into the crypts beneath Shurima in search of ancient power. There she was bitten by a gruesome tomb guardian whose venom transformed her into the viper-like predator. Cunning and agile, Cassiopeia now slithers under the veil of night, petrifying her enemies with her baleful gaze. Okay. Alright then. Born as a noble of Noxus, Cassiopeia du Couture had a sharp mind and wit at an early age. And very early on in her life, the Du Couture family moved to Shurima. Katerina is her older sister, right? While her older sister, Katerina, trained under their father, Marcus, to be an assassin, who Katerina will eventually assassinate herself, Cassiopeia was taught by her mother, Soriana. Sorry, Anna. I'm so sorry, Anna. That's like, yeah, so it's Anna, but you've just accidentally pushed her or something. Sorry, Anna. How to use a position of authority. One day, Soriana fell ill as a result of an assassination attempt through poisoning her hairbrush. What? There's some like... Yikes. That's pretty hectic. With Marcus removing the house staff, Cassiopeia tended to her mother, where the two developed a closer bond as Soriana recovered. When Marcus and Katerina returned to Noxus, Cassiopeia remained in Uzeris. Goddamn, come from Uzeris, Texas, y'all. With her mother. Soriana told her the truth that she was part of the Black Rose cult, which had managed to influence Shurima. As Cassiopeia grew to adulthood, Soriana mentored her to be a cunning and manipulative figure who could use those around her as tools before disposing of them when given the chance. Cassiopeia was initiated into the Black Rose by stealthily assassinating those who plotted Soriana's death. After gaining her role with the Black Rose's plans, Cassiopeia raided Shuriman ruins with the help of a Shuriman mercenary named Siva, who is a very fun character to play, as mentioned. When Soriana received the news that her husband's that her husband honoured Jericho Swain's coup against Borum Darkwill, she realised that the Black Rose would be in danger. So she instructed Cassiopeia to obtain Shurima's godly power. Swearing to her mother's oath, Cassiopeia raided the underground tomb of the Forgotten with Siva. She backstabbed Siva with her dagger before reaching for the artifact, the Chalakar, to open the doors to the tomb and gain the god's warrior's power of ascension. Oh, better quickly as well. What's her alias? The Serpent's Embrace. Right. Cool, man. However, Cassiopeia was bitten by a stone snake guardian which guarded the tomb, painfully transforming her into a half-human, half-snake hybrid, aka Medusa. Right, guys? It's just Medusa, right? Falling into despair, Cassiopeia mourned her lost life for weeks, but eventually moved on and accepted her new form, hoping her newfound ascended magic to have potential for the Black Rose. My goodness. Getting used to her new form while overlooking Urzaris, Cassiopeia felt the urge to hunt down a Noxian soldier she held contempt for. Lurking out of his view, she admonished him for killing children for drake meat for profit. Wait, what? She admonished him for killing children for drake meat for profit and killing 3 people while leaving them unrecognizable. All right. Calling out to her to show herself, Cassiopeia revealed her monstrous appearance to him. She wrapped her tail around this... Oh, that's kinky. Oh, we're starting to get a little bit kinky here, guys. She wrapped her tail around the soldier. Oh, no. Feeling a sadistic satisfaction towards his pain. Oh, my God. Guys, I'm going to have to R18 this goddamn stream. We're turning a bit kinky. He recognized her as Lady Cassiopeia and taunted her about how she lost her nobility. Bro, hey, cuz, hey, this horrendous monster snake woman is entrapping you with her entire body, like squeezing and reveling in your pain, and you're like, look at you, ugly bitch. I bet you're sad now that you're not, like, rich anymore, bro. Bro. Chill, man. Goodness me. In response, Cassiopeia released all of her pent-up emotions as she petrified him into stone. Again, she is literally Medusa. Feeling satisfaction for her new cursed form allowed her to take what she wanted. She smashed the petrified soldier as she eagerly plotted to attack her next victim. Oh my. So you've got Katarina, Black Rose, and Siva under the relations, which all of that is obviously just covered in the backstory there. So yeah, look. I mean, you know, it's Medusa. You know, she like goes into Indiana Jones style into like the Egyptian pyramids to try and steal shit, and then gets cursed by like ancient magics, right? And then comes out as Medusa. And she's a pretty fun character to play. Like, her ult is quite literally just the stun. But a reasonably fun character, I guess. I've never really been a Cassiopeia or Cassiopeia player, so it is what it is. Darius, oh, what's that? Oh, I clicked the wrong gosh darn button too. Gosh darn it, Darius. There we go. Well, I got an alert, but there's nothing in my feed. So if that was a subscriber, thank you very much for subscribing, but it didn't pop up on my end. I'm so sorry, but I heard the sound. Goodness gracious. What a troll Streamlabs is. My God. My God. What's this here? Let me just... Oh, no, that's just... All right. Cool beans, y'all. All right, Darius. So if we do, of course, have the Noxian show, Darius will absolutely be a character in it, in my opinion. He's kind of tied up to a lot of events, and he's got a pretty good story as well, so. Alrighty. There is no greater symbol of Noxian might than Darius. the nation's most feared and battle-hardened leader. Rising from humble origins to become the Hand of Noxus, he cleaves through the Empire's enemies, many of them Noxians themselves. Knowing that he never doubts his cause is just, and never hesitates once his axe is raised, those who stand against the commander of the Triferian Legion can expect no mercy. Like, literally, you will get dunked on. He is the, best basketball player in League of Legends, bar none. So, he is quite literally the Kobe of Runeterra, right? So his aliases are the Hand of Noxus, General Darius, Commander General Darius. So it's it's Darius. Hi, I'm Darius. I'm a hand. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Alright, childhood. Born in Basilich, Darius was an orphan alongside his younger brother, Draven. I mean, Draven and Darius's relationship is pretty great as well. I think it would be pretty good on screen, Draven being a bit of a troll lord. He struggled hard to provide for both himself and his brother, and protected the latter from anyone who tried to harm him, even the city guard. Darius spent a majority of his childhood fighting for survival, with constant fights leaving permanent scars on himself. He and Draven were friends with a girl named Quillette Van, who we read quite a bit about in the Noxian backstory, whom saved him from falling off a cliff that they were climbing. Darius developed a relationship with Quilletta, having ambitions to conquer the world alongside her. When a Noxian army, led by their captain Cyrus, invaded Basilich these nuts, if you know what I'm freaking talking about, guys. That's the stream, guys. I'm not going to get a better joke than that out of here. Am I right, fellas? All right. Oh, dear. The three children hid atop a rooftop. Quilletta was reluctant towards the harsh choice between joining Noxus or being killed, but Darius contemplated paying the consequences, seeing as he didn't want to leave Draven behind. To his horror, Draven attempted to throw a knife to fight them, but ended up hitting Cyrus's flag, leading to the three to get... some of this writing is not great, guys. We need to get an editor in here or something. Leading to the three to get apprehended by soldiers. Okay. Too many twos, guys. After hearing Draven's boasts, Cyrus invited the kids to ally with Noxus. Growing to adulthood in Noxus, Darius married Quilletta and became a father to two, Decius and Invetia, who, we will soon find out, Mercs, her mummy. Goodness me. He and Draven served as soldiers under Cyrus's war host, engaging in many war campaigns and stopping rebellions against Borum Darkwill's throne. Darius quickly rose through the ranks, embodying the values of Noxus through his aggression, bravery, and patriotism. He's a good American boy. In one battle, after a general ordered a retreat, Darius saw him as a coward and beheaded him out of defiance, my boy, rallying the fearful troops and securing a victory. He was rewarded by being promoted to senior commander, which attracted many Noxians to join his army, but he only accepted those with the greatest strength and discipline. Feared to the point where cities surrendered at the sight of Darius's banners, his victory against the Vaju got him promoted to the Hand of Noxus by Darkwill himself. As the new Hand of Noxus, Darius and his army were sent to the Freljord to conquer it, enduring countless assassination attempts and conflictive territorial disputes between the trolls under Trundle's command in the steppes at the borders of the icy lands, and a capture from the Winter's Claw, before ending in a stalemate after a long, grueling conflict. He headed back to Noxus to request a reconciliation of the military, but found that Darkwill had been assassinated and usurped by Jericho Swain. As part of his coup, which even Draven had backed, Darius began to respect Swain's accomplishments and was prepared to serve him, but he gave Darius a place in the Triferian Legion, representing the Noxian principle of might, alongside Swain as Vision and the Faceless as Guile. I mean, I wonder if the faceless is just like a representation of the Black Rose without Swain's knowledge, but maybe that'll be in the lore here. However, Quilletta was starting to become disillusioned towards Noxus after witnessing what I can't wait to witness in the show, the horrific aftermath of Singed's chemical bomb in Ionia, which caused her arm to be amputated as a result of the poison, and their son Decius dying in the campaign against the Freljord. Quilletta expressed her worries to Darius, but he dismissed her, saying that Noxus required mercilessness and sacrifice because the Empire had to conquer, and losing one city would be severely detrimental. Finally, having enough, Quilletta snapped from her grief towards Decius's death, only to be killed by their daughter Invetia, believing her to be weak. Horrified, Darius asked Invetia about her merciless act, and she cited the Noxian philosophy and how she learned from it, right? So that as like a entire character story relationship arc, all of that stuff would be so great on screen, like so good. He's come back from conquest. He's lost his son during that conflict. His wife has been caught up in this horrendous chemical attack on Ionia. She's lost a limb because of it. She's gone through pain, the pain of losing her son, and she's basically, talking down Noxus, and then their daughter, kills her because she is talking against Noxus as an empire. Crazy. Like, what a fantastic moment that would be. And it would cause Darius to think about some stuff, right? All right. So Swain. In Darius's eyes, necromancy is cheating death to justify one undeserved continued survival. Yeah. Yet for him, Sion's legacy is an example. Though when he gazes upon the undead juggernaut, he sees what might become of himself. Should he no longer be useful to the Empire, or rather too useful should death come knocking? Yes, indeed. Garen, we will definitely see this relationship or feud, rivalry between Garen and Darius in the show, especially if we're covering both Demacia and Noxus. 100% this will be in here. Darius holds no grudge against Garen, however he considers him a fool bound by a meaningless code of honor. Despite this, he would relish killing Garen simply to prove Noxian might crushes all, even Demacian preservance, courage and justice, especially a paragon of said values. Yeah. Cool, man. Yeah, as mentioned, look, Darius would make a fantastic character, especially like a POV. Like you've got Mel and Darius. Mel's like hunting the Black Rose. Darius is out there doing the military thing, and then like comes home to have all this horrendous stuff happen, and maybe starts to think, oh, maybe Noxus ain't that great, guys. Maybe Noxus is a little bit cringe, guys. All right, give me just a minute or two. I'm going to have a small break, literally a minute or two, so I will be RB very quickly. One moment. And I have returned. Oh dear. Alrighty. Draven, the Troll King. Do not mix him with Trundle. Alright. So his alias, the Glorious Executioner. Alright, Draven. In Noxus, warriors known as Reckoners face one another in arenas where blood is spilled and strength is tested, but none has ever been as celebrated as Draven. A former soldier, he found that the crowds uniquely appreciated his flair for the dramatic, yes indeed, not to mention the spray of blood from each of his spinning axes. Addicted to the spectacle of his own brash perfection, Draven has sworn to defeat whomever he must to ensure that his name is chanted throughout the Empire forevermore. Goodness me, there's old Draven having a good time. Having a grand old time. Draven grew up as an orphan on the streets of brawling with other children on the street and shady underworld thugs. He was confident in his own abilities even back then. Many described him as overconfident. However, it is unlikely that Draven would have survived his childhood if it wasn't for his brother, Big Boy Kobe Darius. Once Draven and Darius's hometown fell to the war hosts of Noxus, the two came to the attention of a captain named Cyrus, who Draven made an ill-considered attempt to take his life. In spite of this, Cyrus was impressed with their fighting spirits and allowed them to join the ranks of the Noxian army. For many years, Draven and Darius fought as part of Cyrus's war host. Darius found taking on this life was rather easy, but Draven grew increasingly bored. His skills were beyond question, but the everyday life of being a soldier felt like too much effort for too little reward. Additionally, there was not enough personal glory. Darius came to order his own warband, and Draven joined him. He thought this might be easier, or another way to achieve greater recognition for himself, but ultimately, he was disappointed. Oh, poor boy, gotta feel so sorry for him. Rumours have been made as to why Draven left Darius's command. One rumour says that Draven chose to leave his brother's command. Another says he was forced out of command. Whichever is correct, it is undeniable that his skills were highly sought after. As both a champion and a duelist, and eventually he was convinced and decided to join a succession of warbands during the occupation of Ionia, before ending up with a fairly respectable contract in the Reckoning Pits. For many years, the gladiatorial Reckoners had performed a vital role in Noxus, punishing criminals and settling disputes between the noble houses. Draven had his mind set on receiving the riches, adoration, and renown he felt deserved. However, with long, protracted wars on many fronts, the spectacle was beginning to lose its appeal for the common citizen. As the attention of the crowd shifted, Draven fell into a slump, spending more time in the seedier drinking halls and gambling dens of the capital. He ended up washed up and broke when the former general Jericho Swain found him. Oh my god. Okay. Lulu and Tristana? Draven had encountered both Lulu and Tristana, fought and fled from them during his return. Oh, that would be interesting. Riven, of course. Draven sees Riven as a mighty warrior worthy of his time in the fleshing arena. Oh my god. What's up with all this kinky shit, y'all? The fleshing arena? Yikes. God. Oh, I love seeing Riven in the fleshing arena. Oh my god. Yeah, Draven would be a fun character as well, especially like the comparison between him and his brother, his very serious brother, and then him just being an absolute troll lord, would be quite fantastic. And also having like this quite brash and joking character who also commits a lot of horrendous like bloodshed would be quite interesting. And again, you can have that Jinx-like dynamic without all of the mental illness behind it, right? So Katarina, alias is the Sinister Blade. We obviously saw Katarina in the Bite Marks music video doing an assassination. So, Katarina, decisive in judgment and lethal in combat, Katarina is a Noxian assassin of the highest caliber, eldest daughter to the legendary General du She made her talents known with swift kills against unsuspecting enemies. Her fiery ambition has driven her to pursue heavily guarded targets, even at the risk of endangering her allies. But no matter the mission, Katarina will not hesitate to execute her duty amid a whirlwind of serrated daggers. Basically, if Katarina starts spinning around, you're done for. It's GG's. It's that. Even in the game, it's GG. You got an AP Katarina, she ults, it's game over. It's GG's. So, Katarina was born to one of the most respected families in Noxus. While her younger sister, Cassiopeia, took after their politically brilliant mother, Katarina studied the way of the blade under her father's legacy as the Empire's greatest assassin. But the wily General Marcus was a harsh teacher, with many pupils, and kinship held no bearing on his high expectations. Katarina spent her childhood in intense training, climbing the tallest towers after dark, handling dual blades with equal precision, and even building tolerance against various poisons used by assassins. This was her contribution to the Empire, and she yearned for the opportunity to demonstrate her talents and win her honor. One day in the Western Front, Katarina was tasked to assassinate an enemy line officer known as Demetrius. Seeing the mark as a waste of her talents, Katarina would instead ensure a swift victory by eliminating the enemy commander. This proved to be a terrible judgment, as Demetrius took charge of the enemy forces and killed dozens of Noxian soldiers, nearly costing the general his life. Furious with his daughter's disobedience, Marcus sent out his adoptive son and protege, the assassin known as Talon. Okay, Talon's cool. Their battle was brief but left in a draw, with a scar left over her left eye. Oh, I actually didn't know that Talon was the one that gave Katarina her scar. That's cool. The battle was brief but left in a draw, with a scar over her left eye that would forever remind them both of failure. 6 hours later, I should say. Not 6 years. 6 hours later. 6 hours later, Katarina presented Demetrius' severed head as recognition of her failure. Humbled by the consequences, Katarina knew she had lost her father's favour, but hoped to someday redeem herself in both his eyes and the Empire while she kills him. So, spoilers. 4 years after the coup against Emperor Borum Darkwill, Marcus mysteriously went missing, and the family assumed that he had been killed. In support of the new regime, Katarina made certain to make her skills known to Swain, and rose to status as one of his most esteemed assassins. She eliminated Swain's political rivals over the years, cutting down rogue warbands and silencing those who continued to fight for Darkwill. Katarina believed that the old guard needed to make way for a brighter future, without tyrants or prejudice robbing the Noxian people of the chance to thrive. Interesting outlook from someone from one of the most powerful noble families. One day, Katarina is abruptly stolen away to somewhere private. The assailant reveals himself to be her father, Marcus, who had in fact faked his own death on Swain's order. He tells of his undercover work in Demacia, and that Swain changed the plan to give Katarina her biggest assignment yet. A covert assassination of King Jarvan III, as well as the noble Luxana Crown Guard, so that's Lux, the other half of the time bomb ship, during the chaos of Silas's mage rebellion. Mistrustful of Swain, Marcus advised Katerina that the Grand General had betrayed them both and practically sent her on a suicide mission to ruin the standing of the House du Cotowawa. Still, Katerina decided to follow through, as her success would be undeniable merit against any potential persecution. Upon finding Lux seized by Demacian guards, Katerina frees her and makes a short conversation. She decided against killing the young girl, sympathizing with the lady's rejection of family attitudes and the current Demacian regime. On the other hand, Jarvan III was both a tyrant and a traitor to his people, as he opposed mages, just as they had the strength to overthrow him. Katerina made way to kill the king and absconded from the surviving guards, who then pinned the assassination on Silas. However, her escape from the city was interrupted by Garen, who received a tip that she was a mage helping Silas. The two engaged in a short but fierce fight that abruptly ended after an explosion signaled the start of riots. With no time to waste, the two amicably parted ways, and Katerina refocused on trying to escape Demacia. With the guards distracted by the uprising, Katerina hijacked a raptor rider to cross the city walls. But a rogue arrow struck and killed the rider, sending her plummeting into the forest. It is revealed that Captain Jardin was responsible for the shot. He was part of an undercover assassination, but had secret orders to sabotage Katerina. Katerina miraculously survived the fall, but one of her daggers had shattered. She quickly retreated back to the hideout in Noxus to be nursed back to health by her friend Dran. She also noticed Jaredin, again, that is like the D&D DM coming up with a name on the fly. Jared, Fantasy Jared, Jaredan, waiting outside, and realized the circumstances may not be what she thought. However, whoever wanted to kill Katerina had to be well informed of her family's secrets. With her father still out and about, she returned home to confront the only suspect. Stirring her brother out of bed, Katerina's trust grew awry when she caught the faint scent of her father's perfume, and immediately attempted to subdue him. Talon reveals that he helped fake Marcus's death in an elaborate plan to replace Katerina and topple Swain. Before he could deal the fatal blow with Katerina's dagger, she took her broken dagger and cut his eye. After this, Katerina decided to spare Talon. As she turns to leave, she's assured she never. Some of this writing, man, goodness. As she turns to leave, she assured she never held a grudge against him for scarring her face, and wished that he would break off from father's legacy towards his own path. She left the house vowing that she to kill. Oh my God! She left the house vowing that she to kill Talon if she chose not to heed her advice. Man, this is rough. This is rough. The next morning, Katerina and Dran performed a blood bonding ritual to link to her new blades, enabling her to teleport to her weapons and vice versa. Intent on protecting Swain from her father, she headed towards the immortal bastion. When they met, Marcus reveals that he orchestrated to sabotage Katerina's mission in Demacia, and that the true target of Swain's orders was not Lux, but himself. A final battle ensues, shrouded in smoke and lasting for an arduous duration. In a desperate attempt to finish the job, Marcus decided to sacrifice himself by priming a devastating wolf's maw explosive. Katerina swiftly threw her dagger to knock the charge from his hand, and threw her blade as far as she could into the air, intending to teleport to it with the device before it could detonate. However, Swain unexpectedly intervened, seizing the explosive and redirecting the impending blast towards Marcus, instantly incinerating him. In the aftermath of the battle, Swain congratulated Katarina on her assignment, revealing it was a test to find his failsafe, the only person who could kill him if his demon would take control of him one day. Fully embracing her role as Swain's assassin, she eliminated Jaredin 2 months later in Northern Freljord. Right. Again, will be a great character who I do believe will be in the series. We've got here infiltrating the Silken Dance. Okay. Following the mission sent from an unsigned letter, Katarina was able to infiltrate the Silken Dance at the manor of the House of Cathera, and located her unnamed mark. However, her initial attacks was thwarted by Elise and forced out of her masquerade. Oh, so this is literally the bite marks video, right? Forced her out of her masquerade disguise. As the two then fighted across the ballroom, Katarina was able to maneuver and eliminate her mark, still standing triumphant over his body. Katarina smirked at Elise, who then turned into a spider form. Right, so that's quite literally just from the bite marks trailer. Alrighty. Yeah, so Talon, Cassiopeia, Marcus, Serena, Garen, Lux, Jericho, Dran. Yep, so we've gone over all those. Got a cute little pick. Yeah, they get their schmicky on. Anyway, no problems with that. Let me just give me uno momento, folks. I just need to quickly check something. I'm not muting or anything. I'm still going to be here. I'm still here. All right. Yep. Excellent. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to do. There we go. All right. Perfect. Okie dokie. Kled, another character that I've got no idea about. All right. Oh my, look at the, oh bro. It's a little bit on the nose. So alias, what? Why do you have 50 million aliases, bro? What the hell? All right. The Cantankerous Cavalier, the Great Hussar, the High General Marshal Sergeant, the Mountain Admiral, Lord Colonel Major Centurion, Rear Forward Brigadier Admiral, Forward Admiral Major, Sir Admiral Major, Lieutenant Sergeant Commodore, Sergeant General Sergeant Double Admiral, High Major Commodore of the First Legion, Third Multiplication, Double Admiral, Lord Major Admiral of the... What the... What? Bro... Why do you have so many? Anyway, what? Okay. There's too many aliases, bro. I'm sure your backstory will explain this, but what the hell? Alright, a warrior as fearless as he is ornery, the Yordle Kled embodies the furious bravado of Noxus. Oh, what's going on here? Many claim Kled has fought in every campaign the war hosts have waged, acquired every military title. Oh, that's why. Okay, immediately explains itself. Thank you. Thank God. Acquired every military title and never once backed down from a fight. What's going on here? Why aren't you working? Piece of shit. Alright. Never once backed down from a fight, though the truth of the matter is often questionable. One part of his legend is always the same, charging into battle on his untrusty steed, Skarl, Cled fights to protect what's his and takes whatever else he can get. Okay. So Cled is a stereotypical hillbilly. What? What? Okay. Cled is a stereotypical hillbilly with a distaste for city folk. What? What? Okay, fine. Alright, that's a little bit... okay. With a distaste for city folk. So I think I need to... Well, Cled, you know, he's a stereotypical hillbilly with a distaste for, you know, city folk, and a fierce sense of independence from society. Paranoid and territorial, Cled views all of Noxus as his property. Oh, god damn, my property, god damn it, and will gladly kill anyone he views as a trespasser. Though Cled don't answer to the Tripherax, he fought alongside and inspired Noxian forces with his fearless and violent attitude for many centuries. Well, I do declare, and has been decorated with many honors, oh my, because of his military titles, which may or may not be made up. Oh, that explains what's half of these goddamn titles. He bloody made them up. Yeah, I'm just gonna make up my own military title, you know. Cled takes pride in his accomplishments and uses them as a means to prove his superiority over others. Well, my golly, good God golly, Cled is very unfriendly, cursing often, and is prone to violent outbursts and shouting. Well, so am I, brother. Cled shows a greedy side with his insistence on claiming land, and often places signs marking property of Cled. Well, I do agree, my brother, whenever he thinks something is his. Because of his short temper, he constantly berates his Dracolop steed, Scarl, for her cowardly and unreliable nature. Well, you need to get yourself a Ford Falcon, brother. Goddamn most reliable beast out there, brother. However, Cled does not have a soft spot for his untrusty... Oh, he does have a soft spot for his untrusty steed, I see, and is overjoyed whenever she returns to help him in battle. Because of his chaotic nature, others often wonder if Cled is mentally unstable. And all the city slickers look at us country bumpkins and think we're all mentally unstable, I do declare. Bro, that starting line is cringe. I'm sorry. This is the cringest shit I think I've ever thought I could read in the League of Legends wiki. Like, stereotypical hillbilly with a distaste for city folk. Well, I do declare. I agree, brother. Oh, okay. Well, thankfully, there's not much going on there, and if we do see, oh, yeehaw, Cled, he'll probably be in the background, right? Jesus. Ugh. I do declare. Ugh, that was a bit odd. Alright, LeBlanc. We all kind of know LeBlanc, right? You know, she was in Arcane for about 5 seconds. You never really got to see her. She was just doing illusions and stuff. Yahoo, yay. Very cool, very inspiring. Alright. Mysterious even to the other members of the Black Rose Cabal, LeBlanc is but one of many names for a pale woman who has manipulated people and events since the earliest days of Noxus. Using her magic to mirror herself, the sorceress can appear to anyone, anywhere, and even be in many places at once, unless, of course, she is being outplayed and deceived by Mel, who has just found out she has magic power. Oh, wow. Always plotting just out of sight, LeBlanc's true motives are as inscrutable as her shifting identity. So her aliases are the Deceiver. Yes, the Deceiver got deceived by Mel. Ha ha ha. Oh god, Matron LeBlanc, the Pale Woman, the Pale Lady, Pale Sorceress, Illusionary Sorceress. Well, that's pretty goddamn creative, goddammit. Alrighty. Not much is known about LeBlanc's early life, except she was born over 1,000 years ago and was uniquely skilled at magic, specializing in illusion. During the reign of the Iron Revenant Mordekaiser, LeBlanc was one of the many acolytes who served his empire of death. Having learned of Shan Uzal's conquest, LeBlanc believed there was no one her master would not use or sacrifice should it benefit him. And when Mordekaiser raised an army of undead shadows from his past, she watched as he tortured and enslaved his bringer of ruin, Arcane, even though the demon had been a dutiful servant in his previous life. In the following years, LeBlanc witnessed untold death and destruction as Mordekaiser laid waste to the continent of Valoran. His reign lasted for centuries, until at the height of Mordekaiser's power, she noticed a brewing unrest among the fractured Noxus barbarian tribes who had long suffered as a result of the Revenant's tyrannical rule. LeBlanc met with the fiendish blood mage Vladimir, who was considered a god by these barbarians, and when she gave him an offer, they feasted as equals in his home. Here, the pale sorceress and barbarian god wove magic so dark that the wine at their table soured, and the roses withered, vibrant red turning to black. As the Noxus alliance marched on Mordekaiser's immortal bastion, LeBlanc pledged to neutralize the source of her master's dark power at its source, cutting him from the well of death that fueled his empire. When they confronted him, LeBlanc and Vladimir cast Mordekaiser from the material realm by severing the anchors of his soul from his armor, which was later hidden in a secret place far beneath his own fortress. LeBlanc and Vladimir also managed to seal the Revenant's demons, Arcane and Tybolc. Huh? Tybolc? What? Okay. Before hiding them away as well. The Noxus tribes were victorious, and the barbarians laid claim to the immortal bastion, believing its wicked power had been locked away for good. Unbeknownst to them, remnants of Mordekaiser's magic still stirred, as LeBlanc had seized her master's dark arcane secrets for herself. To hide her deception, she too eventually vanished into the pages of history, and by the time the ancient rune wars devastated and wiped out nearly every civilization, nearly all records of LeBlanc's existence had been burnt away, with her only traces being old, ephemeral legends that a pale sorceress once helped the Noxus tribes defeat Mordekaiser. Alright. In the centuries that followed the ancient rune wars, LeBlanc and Vladimir recruited many into the Order of the Black Rose, which grew into a cabal of the most powerful mages in all of Runeterra. So again, with LeBlanc being like this kind of overarching villain to say like Mel's storyline, we have all of this build-up in Arcane of, magic users are bad, they're naughty naughties, Heimerdinger is terrified of magic, and he turns out to be absolutely correct. We see what happens in Arcane with Victor, and then now we're going to be dealing with an entire group of magic users, right? So the show can do probably quite a good job. I don't think they'd ever show the Rune Wars. Potentially they would. I'm not sure if they would, but if they don't, they can at least show like the destruction of the mages through the Black Rose, how kind of destructive and manipulative and controlling they can be. So in the centuries that followed the Ancient Rune Wars, So in the centuries that followed the Ancient Rune Wars, LeBlanc and Vladimir recruited many into which grew into a cabal of the most powerful mages in all of Runeterra. The Black Rose grew its influence to further the interests of those who wield such powerful magic, with its rank and file members among the greedy, powerless nobility being nothing more than pawns to their ends. The barbarians who had survived the Rune Wars forged a new empire, Noxus, in the shadow of the immortal bastion. As Noxus began their conquests under LeBlanc's leadership, the Black Rose manipulated its military, its military, and even its throne from the shadows, and were secretly responsible for a large number of the Empire's most significant military campaigns. Eventually, LeBlanc extended her influence well beyond Noxus, sending her dark magic to twist every corner of Runeterra, including the Freljord, Targon, and the deserts of Shurima. LeBlanc's dark political games pushed Runeterra to the brink of all-out war on numerous occasions, always done secretly and in the name of furthering the Cabal's interests. One of the nobles who joined the Black Rose was named Lady Elise, who was the Spider Lady from the Bite Marks trailer. LeBlanc, seeing in her a certain cunning and ruthlessness, would approach the poisoned, bedridden woman with the offer of joining the Black Rose. In an attempt to prove her worth, Elise would set sail to the Shadow Isles, aka the Blessed Isles, which would also make a great television show, let's be frank and beans here, in order to find an esteemed item for the Cabal, only to be mutated into a half-spider creature under the control of Vilemore, the Spider King. LeBlanc saw this as an opportunity to travel to the Isles in safety, and she would give Elise acolytes for sacrifice, and in turn, she would bring powerful artifacts from the Isles. So we've got the reign of Borum Darkwill, starting with here the resurrection of Sion. During the final days of the First Demacian-Noxian War, LeBlanc supported the rise of the new Grand General Borum Darkwill, and after he took the throne, the Black Rose spearheaded the resurrection of the Empire's long-dead hero Sion, even though his body had been entombed in a statue to honour him for all time. Darkwill could not refuse a gift from his mysterious allies, but upon witnessing how uncontrollable the undead warrior had become, Darkwill changed his mind, ordering Sion to be sealed back up. Eventually, Darkwill began to refuse the Black Rose's counsel, and LeBlanc realized the Grand General had grown wary of her influence. To regain control, LeBlanc orchestrated a plot to fake her own death, manipulating the young nobleman Jericho Swain into revealing the Cabal and having it appear that the most prominent conspirators, including LeBlanc herself, were executed by his hand. As part of her plot to control the great houses of Noxus, LeBlanc set her sights on the powerful house Madada, sending two of her best mages, the Solari Rudo and the Hemomancer, Ionia? Yen? What? Yen? Okay. To install Tafik, Madada, as her puppet in Menelik's place. That's some fantasy names back to back to back. LeBlanc has also ordered Inyini to begin experimenting with a technique called magical transference in a desert laboratory south of Terashni. Oh my god! Which attempted to replicate the tattoos of the legendary rune mage Rise. Yes, who should have done something during Victor going crazy, but Rise is dumb, I guess. They began their flesh rune research by raising an army of rune soldiers for Tafik to defeat his rival in the succession, Ambisa Madada. We all know Ambisa, of course. When this task was completed, Inyini began work on nullification, which would empower one mage at the expense of another, who would be left in a powerless catatonic state. Inyini's experiments were so brutal that Rudo abandoned the Black Rose and vowed to destroy the project, joining forces with Ambisa to defeat Tafik and Inyini. LeBlanc and her spies kept tabs on Ambisa as she was in the capital seeking Darkwill's support, and again she fought the Tafik's rune soldiers in Rockrund. During this time, their attention fell upon a young mage in Ambisa's army, Rel Canwyll, whose powers of pheromancy were discovered when she suffered a near-death encounter against a basilisk. After Ambessa's forces defended the city using Rel's new abilities, LeBlanc disguised herself as Ambessa and infiltrated the citadel, kidnapping the girl without a trace. When Ambessa had finally won the... Ambessa, not Ambessa. Come on, guys. Had finally won the conflict and destroyed Iona's research notes, LeBlanc confronted her in the desert, declaring that her efforts were futile, as the Rose had already made copies and were going to turn Rel into a weapon to make up for the deaths of Inyini and Rudo. Since LeBlanc could not control the Madada clan, she decided to destroy it instead, leaving Ambessa alive so she could watch her family legacy crumble around her. At around the same time, the Black Rose began experimenting on Rel, forcing her into combat with other young mages. The girl swore vengeance on her captors. The Black Rose welcomed her into their ranks. Alright, invasion of Ionia. After many years of planning, Darkwyll finally launched his invasion of Ionia in 984 AN, which was long considered his greatest ambition in a list of the Empire's other conquests. Still, as he grew older and more paranoid, Darkwyll was approached again by LeBlanc and seduced by her promises to extend his life. And LeBlanc once again had control of the throne. She and Darkwyll sent General Swain, the very same nobleman she had manipulated all those years ago, to die on the battlefields of Ionia. And though he survived the Placidium, he knew he had also lost an arm and was cast out of the military in disgrace. However, Swain returned one day, for within the immortal bastion had lied a power that many had tried and failed to obtain, the power of Realm. Swain had found a way to use Realm to his own benefit, and became empowered by the knowledge, powers, and restored physical form that it gave him. Though his coup took years to plan, Swain and his allies managed to overthrow and kill Darkwyll in a single night, after which Swain claimed the title of Grand General and established the Trifarix in Darkwill's place. Swain's rise to power concerned LeBlanc, as he could not be easily corrupted nor manipulated like Darkwyll had been. To reassert her control over Noxus, she made plans to destroy the new Grand General, working to assassinate him many times over the next few years. Okay. So we've got feud with Ambessa Madarda. Death of Kino. LeBlanc's feud with Ambessa continued for many years after the death of Tafik, and as the warlord continued to lose her allies and territory, she became increasingly desperate to uproot the Cabal once and for all. Ambessa's son, Kino, became deeply entangled in the Black Rose's web while investigating the death of his father, and he uncovered evidence in the Basilisk, which revealed that Rudo and Ambessa had an affair decades prior. The affair led to a child who inherited Rudo's magical abilities, and believing that child to be Kino, the Cabal kidnapped him. It became quickly apparent that Kino was not Rudo's child, and when Ambessa left Kino to die instead of saving him, LeBlanc killed Ambessa's son. With no allies left that she could turn to, Ambessa set sail for Piltover. LeBlanc's agent in the region, the guild merchant Amara, attempted to assassinate Ambessa. Oh, this is all just arcane stuff. That's all good. Malcorporated, blah, blah, blah. And then she goes blitty blatty zippy zappy. Isn't that fun? In 996 AN, LeBlanc demanded... Oh my god. Tefalongi to return Riven's runic blade back to her, threatening to take her life if she didn't bring it back. Okay. 1 year after the death of Jarvan III, the relationship between Demacia and Noxus lacked communication thanks to the turmoil of the Mage Rebellion. LeBlanc took advantage of this and created a clone of Garen's great uncle Hargold in order to pressure Lord Eldwin to side with Noxus. Her efforts ended up failing, and the Nockmerch renewed its truce with Demacia. Okay. Interesting. Oh, Veigar. LeBlanc and Veigar were both forced to work for Mordekaiser as part of his inner circle. She finds it somewhat tasteless that Veigar aspires to be like their former master, believing Mordekaiser to be an unworthy role. But babe, Veigar is a yordle. He was like... He was like poisoned and like turned dark from... Anyway. Okay, cool. Yep, LeBlanc, easy peasy. The French baby waby. Mel, we don't need to know about Mel. We already know about Mel, guys. Alrighty, give me just a few moments. I shall BRB. I won't be long, just a minute or two. BRB. Alrighty. So I'm thinking what we're probably going to need to do with this is we're going to need to potentially split it into 3 parts. One for Noxus, one for Ionia, one for Demacia. So I'd say we'll probably finish up, depending on how we're looking, when we finish these Noxian ones. And then, yeah, we'll just pick it straight up in the next stream. Because what have we got left? We got Mordekaiser, this Rel, Chick, Riven, Samira, Sion, Swain, Talon, Vladimir. So I think that'll be enough. Alrighty. So we've got Mordekaiser. Aliases, he's got 10 trillion aliases as well. He's got the Iron Revenant, the Lord of Death, the Dreadlord, the Unconquered King, Tyrant of the Great Grass Ocean, First King of Noxus, Conqueror of Death, Demon's Bane, and then formerly Conqueror of the Wildlands, Master of the Tribes. Alrighty. Twice slain and thrice born, Mordekaiser is a brutal warlord from a foregone epoch, who uses his necromantic sorcery to bind souls into an eternity of servitude. Few now remain who remember his earlier conquests or know the true extent of his powers, but there are some ancient souls that do, and they fear the day when he may return to claim dominion over both the living and the dead. Alrighty. So, distant past, San Uzal was one of the most feared warlords in the northern wildlands, conquering countless tribes and settlements so that he would one day earn a seat at the god's table, the Hall of Bones. San Uzal's conquests led to much bloodshed and sacrifice, and he was soon pursued by the demon Arcane, who was drawn to the scent of death the warlord left in his wake. San Uzal managed to defeat the demon, but not before losing his most loyal general, Karasash Li. Unwilling to let his best warrior die, San Uzal tasked his sorcerers to bind Katash Li's helmet with Arcane. In a dark ritual, they combined their souls into one tortured body and enslaved the demon to his will. Artakan brought ever more victories to San Uzal, and his empire grew substantially. San Uzal's conquest would one day end, however, and after his countless victories, San Uzal believed he had certainly earned a place in the Hall of Bones. But when he passed into the afterlife, he was furious to find there was no eternal glory like he had been promised as a follower of the first truth, only an empty, grey wasteland where souls would go to wander and eventually fade away. Vowing to forge the kingdom he was denied, San Uzal refused to fade, fueling himself with his hatred as he learned Ochnen, the language of the dead. Eventually, he formed a plan to return to the realm of the living and began to whisper temptation to any mortal foolish enough to think they could control him. Centuries later, San Uzal was summoned and bound into a massive suit of armor by a cult of sorcerers who sought to use the conqueror's prowess for their own ends. When they tried to bind him to their will, however, the spell failed, as San Uzal had given up his former name. His name was now only spoken in the language of the dead, Mordekaiser. After slaying the foolish sorcerers, Mordekaiser forged a new mace from their souls, Nightfall, and began his second conquest as the Iron Revenant. Empowered by his new necromantic sorcery, Mordekaiser raised the fallen soldiers from his past as shadows bound to his will, among them his old demonic servant Arcane. At some point, Mordekaiser also bound a fire demon, Tybolk, to his service, and amassed a circle of acolytes who would do his bidding. Mordekaiser also captured a Yordle, Vhagar. Everybody loves Vhagar, right? He's going to take over and destroy the world, little Vhagar boy, and enslaved him into his service by torturing him until his mind eventually broke. See, this is why I was like, just before, with LeBlanc's thing. LeBlanc is like, bro, Vhagar, you're so cringe. You want to be like Mordekaiser? Like, that's so cringe. But then it's like, Vhagar doesn't have a choice here. Like, his mind is broken. Anyway, with an army of dark forces at his command, Mordekaiser forged an empire that lasted for generations, bringing with it untold death and destruction. At the center of his empire, Mordekaiser raised the immortal Bastion, which was both a symbol of his power and also held a darker, secret purpose. After many years, Mordekaiser's reign of terror would finally come to an end when he was betrayed by one of the acolytes from his inner circle, LeBlanc, who joined forces with the hemomancer Vladimir and conspired with the Noxus tribes to seal Mordekaiser away, seizing his fortress and demonic servants for herself. Unbeknownst to LeBlanc, her betrayal had always been a part of Mordekaiser's plan, and after his second death, he found himself surrounded not by an empty wasteland, but by a grand and eternal afterworld, which he had constructed of blocks and mortar moulded from the very souls he had slain on his second conquest. Mordekaiser called this afterworld, Mitna Rachnan, and went to rule over the unfading souls as Lord and Master for all eternity. Mordekaiser remains in Mintna Rachnan, biding his time, so that he may return once more to begin his final reign over Runeterra. LeBlanc continues to watch his armor to prevent the seal from breaking, and continuously seeks out more power to do battle against the Iron Revenant, should he return one day. Mordekaiser still has some acolytes in Runeterra, such as Janik and Lord Mallet. His fortress, the Immortal Bastion, remains a symbol of power across the continent, eventually serving as a seat of power for the Empire of Noxus. Okay. I've got a little kindred here. Given San Uzal's faith in the Hall of Bones, it's safe to say his culture did not have a kindred myth. Okay, which would explain why he never was claimed by them. Okay, interesting. I mean, he is pretty old, right? But then, I mean, kindred is, like, older, right? So this Ral person, who I've got no idea. So we'll be learning all about this Ral person. Okay. Looks like she's holding, like, a garbage dispenser and, like, a jousting thing. Oh, is that a horse? Oh! Oh, that makes more sense. Alright, I've got you. Whoopsies. So her alias is the Iron Maiden. Right. Not a garbage dispenser. Okay, I got you. The product of brutal experimentation at the hands of the Black Rose, Ral is a defiant living weapon determined to topple Noxus. Okay. Her childhood was one of misery and horror, enduring unspeakable procedures to perfect and weaponizing her magical control over metal. Okay. Until she made a violent escape, killing many of her captors in the process. This is like the Briar backstory, or is it like exactly the same? Now branded as a criminal, Ral attacks Noxian soldiers on sight as she searches for survivors of her old academy, defending the meek while delivering merciless death to her former instructors. Okay. Born in Noxus, Ral's father was a military foot soldier, while her mother was an heir to a now fallen noble house, causing Ral's childhood to lack the usual gilded upbringing that other noble children have in Noxus. At a young age, Ral's innate magic sparkled, an ability called Ferromancy, that allows her to manipulate metal. Because of the uniqueness and rarity of this power, Ral's parents saw an opportunity to reign influence within the Noxian nobility and attempted to apprentice Ral with many of the powerful mages in hopes of getting Ral promoted as a magical elite within the Noxian military. Though the apprenticeships failed, the sorceress LeBlanc took notice of the young girl's magic abilities and visited her parents, striking a deal with them to enroll Ral within an academy run by the Black Rose. Okay, so like a potential teammate for Mel, right? If she is in the Noxus show. Ral was enrolled into the Rose Guard Academy, a boarding school for mages, hidden away from the Noxian capital. Ral became the star pupil of her school and was visited by her parents on rare occasions, who expressed how proud they were of her. At the age of 8, oh god, this is all happening before she was even 8 years old, yikes. At the age of 8, Ral was forced into her first sparring match against one of her classmates, defeating him easily. While her sparring opponent was never seen again, the academy staff painfully grafted a magical sigil onto Ral's skin, amplifying her magic. Ral trained within the academy for years and honed her skill in using her magic with martial combat, growing powerful with every sparring match she won and every sigil applied to Ral's skin. Over time, most of the other students came to fear their turn to fight against her, with some even growing to hate her. One particular student, a boy named Gabriel, who had the powers to shape dirt into tiny fauna, actually befriended Ral and often comforted her as she recovered from the Academy's abuse. Unfortunately, he would be instructed to combat against Ral next, forcing her to fight her only friend as he disappeared soon after, fueling her rage against the Academy. After a particularly barbaric duel on her 16th birthday, Rel became up with her mysteriously brutal training. Rel became fed up, I assume it's meant to say. Rel became fed up with her mysteriously brutal training. She tore through the Academy's guards and faculty to venture into a forbidden wing of the school, discovering the Academy's horrifying truth that her classmates had been nullified. The students, now called Null, were emotionless, mindless husks that had their magic forcibly extracted from their bodies and turned into the same magic sigils that branded Rel's body. Oh, that's kind of cool. That's kind of hard out. Just like all of her fellow students and maybe even her friend just being reduced to husks to empower her. Rel then confronted the Academy's headmistress, only to discover that it was her own mother, who ensured that everything she did was for Rel's own sake. In a fit of rage, Rel unleashed her full power and destroyed the school, ripping the building apart using the metal to form her impenetrable suit of black armor. Bursting through a door with a lance and a steed she constructed with her powers, she killed most of the staff and freed as many classmates as possible. Okay. Many classmates, including the Null children, fled after Rel's violent escape. In a bid to conceal the horrific acts that occurred within the Academy, the Black Rose swiftly embarked on a mission to recapture the Null and eliminate any trace of the institution. Moreover, their utmost priority was the retrieval of their most valuable asset, Rel herself, who the Black Rose named a notorious fugitive and a threat to the Empire. Plastered across... is this like the wanted poster for her, I guess? That's pretty cool. But generally, it's quite good if in a wanted poster you can actually see what they look like. That's probably quite helpful, must admit. Plastered across Noxus, an array of wanted posters depicted Rel as a formidable criminal, with most of Noxian soldiers seeing any mission to apprehend her as a death sentence. Promising substantial rewards to those capable of apprehending her, the posters advised individuals to deliver her to the nearest Empire building marked with a signature Black Rose. Rel has emerged as a self-proclaimed defender of the meek and a violent insurgent, leading a relentless rebellion against both the Black Rose and the Noxian government because of the Empire's willful disregard of the horrors that happened within the Academy. She rides valiantly through the streets of Noxus atop her formidable iron steed and consumed with hatred against the entire nation. Her sole focus now is to dismantle the very foundations upon which Noxus stands and rescuing any survivors of the Academy, most notably the Null. Okay, a warband in the outskirts of Noxus, led by a former instructor of the Academy named Instructor Lucas, managed to locate Rel and attempted to detain her. A Minotaur soldier knocked Rel unconscious by tossing a boulder at her, but she woke up soon after and formed her metal steed from raw ore out of the ground. Rel easily killed the entire warband in a whirlwind of metallic shards and grabbed Lucas, who revealed that Gabrielle, Rel's nullified friend from the Academy, was located at a nearby camp. Rel instantly crushed him to death and rode towards the camp to free Gabrielle. Unfortunately, once at the hidden camp, Rel found Gabrielle's malnourished corpse, as the Black Rose's warbands usually neglected the Null once they were detained. Pained by the discovery, Rel buried his body and created a gravestone out of metal, using her powers to decorate it with crude animal statues in his honor. At some point, a compound near the coastal settlement of Qualthala in the southern jungles managed to successfully detain Rel and at least one Null. Fortunately, Rel managed to escape by tearing her cell and the compound apart, leaving a mess of metallic shards and a hole leading into the jungle, presumably escaping alongside whatever Null was imprisoned there as well. So it's Magneto. It's like Magneto. Okay. Rel is completely unaware of Mordekaiser and has never met him, but in her training with the Black Rose is the product of their plans to turn her into the perfect living weapon to use against Mordekaiser. It makes sense if she can control metal and he is like imbued armor, right? As a contingency once he returns to the physical realm. This is most likely due to her particularly rare, powerful ability to manipulate metal, which Mordekaiser's physical armored body is mostly made of. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, didn't know. This was obviously one of the newer characters that came out after I stopped playing. That's interesting. I guess fantasy Magneto, right? Riding an iron horse. That's something. That's alright. That's not bad. Quite inspired, but not bad. Alright, Riven. Super fun character to play. I used to play Riven quite a lot. Kind of like a combo character. Use your abilities as combos, which are always quite fun. Her alias are the Exile, previously Captain Riven, Butcher of the Bay. Alrighty. So, once a swordmaster in the war hosts of Noxus, Riven rose through the ranks on the strength of her conviction and brutal efficiency, and was rewarded with a legendary runic blade and a warband of her own. However, on the Ionian front, Riven's faith in her nation was tested and ultimately broken as she severed all ties to the Empire. She severed all ties to the Empire, seeking to find her place in a shattered world, even as rumours abound that Noxus had been reforged. Now forced to return in chains, she faced the judgment of her former homeland. So Riven was born on a farm on the coastal farming village of Travail in Noxus. Her father had been a soldier, slain in a battle, and her own mother was said to not survive the birth. Oh, poor girl. Leaving young Riven to work the farms as an orphan. Working a farm wasn't her lifelong goal, however. Really? Wow. She longed for more. Inspired by warband conscriptors that would frequent Travail, she would eventually join the Fury Company and pledge her strength to the Noxian Empire. Alongside her sisters and brothers in arms, whose bonds were forged in the heat of battle, a bond she saw as unbreakable, Riven thrived. Despite her youth, Riven proved to be a natural soldier. Years of working at the farm made her strong, and in turn allowed her to master the weight of a long sword so much taller and heavier than herself. I'm getting guts vibes at the moment. That's for sure. So strong was her dedication that it got her noticed by Borum Darkwill, the Emperor of Noxus, who bestowed Riven with her own massive runic blade, said to be enchanted by a certain pale sorceress in his court. So LeBlanc enchanted her blade, of course. Not long after, Riven and her warband would sail for Ionia. Intended to take part of the long-planned Noxus-led occupation, the war dragged, and it became clear that Ionia would not kneel. Fury Company was eventually assigned to escort another warband, though through the embattled Navari province. The warband's leader, a commander by the name of Emmy Stan? Had just commissioned weapons from a Zornite alchemist, singedy, wingedy, bingedy, and was eager to test them out. Riven had been glad to put her life on the altar of the Noxian Empire across countless campaigns, but the something had been off about this one. But the something had been off about this one. Okay. The soldiers, the weapon's purpose, something was off. It made Riven uneasy. Well, yeah, it's chemical warfare, babe. It's not great. This campaign, much like others, was met with strong resistance. It was the land itself fighting back. Stranded on a muddy landslide during a rainstorm, the Ionian resistance saw an opportunity. Seeing the opposition, Riven called Emmy Stan for backup. It would be the last Captain Riven would ever do. God, y'all need... Sorry, wiki guys, I know you're doing this out of the love for the love for the thing, but y'all need to get an editor through here to fix up some of the shit, man. A flaming arrow, flown from the ridge side, embedded itself into the wagon. Riven had instinctively drawn her sword, but it wasn't enough to protect anyone but herself. Chemical flames burst from the wagon, engulfing Noxian and Ionian alike, leaving them to suffer a slow, agonizing death. Thanks, Singed. Thanks, bro. Saved from the toxic mist by the magic in her rune blade, Riven could only watch in horror as both family and foe slowly choked to death on the poisonous fumes. There she realised the high cost of the war bent not on expanding Noxus's borders or spreading its ideals, but one of complete and utter annihilation, one of complete utter betrayal and atrocity. I gotcha. Memories of the event would only come to Riven later in nightmares, but the impact was enough. Disgusted with the betrayal, Riven had come to hate the blade that saved her life, her final tie to Noxus. Seeking the assistance of a wind blade master, or Yasuo, Riven would have it shattered, but even that failed to bring her peace. She wandered the Ionian countryside, deciding exile was a better price for someone who'd wrought so much damage as she. I didn't know Yasuo broke her blade. That's pretty cool. Alright. Eventually, her travels would return her to the village where she'd broken the sword. There she would be taken in by a pair of Ionian farmers, distraught over the loss of their own sons, but unwilling to live in the past and fully ready to embrace the future. Once she'd regained her health, Riven would help them in the fields until one day Ionian soldiers came for her. Then she learned that the master she'd sought help to destroy her blade had perished. Oh, maybe it's not Yasuo then. Or I don't know. And that seeing her blade, the Ionian soldiers have new evidence as to who might done it. But as to who might have done it. So English is hard, guys. It's so hard. Now dragged to court, Riven faced a trial for the murder of Elder Soma. Right, so is that the guy that did it? We shall soon find out, I think. Whom she currently had no true recollection of ever meeting. After being bombarded with questions, Riven's blade, the rune sword she had sought to destroy, now laid in pieces, sans one, was brought out. The final piece, found embedded in the corpse of Elder Soma, was slotted back into the weapon and revived the deactivated weapon and her memories. Riven was, in fact, she revealed, the one who killed Elder Soma. That night, she was made to stay in the trial room to await her sentence. A hooded man who'd approached her the day before prior to her arrest came to her. There, he revealed himself to be Yasuo. Elder... Okay. So it looks like maybe this Elder guy was the one that broke the blade, and then Yasuo was his apprentice. Okay, that's all right. Who'd been tasked to guard the Elder, but had led to fight the Noxian invasion. He'd returned to his village, to his master dead, his village attack, and first and foremost had been accused of Soma's murder. Now seeking vengeance, he challenged Riven to a fight, to which she agreed. The battle was on then. Okay. Only stopping when Riven's runic blade activated, but still very much in pieces, slid and a piece shot out. The piece flying in the direction of Riven's adoptive father, Asa Conte, who had come into Riven to free her from her chains. It would have killed him were it not for Yasuo's wind wall, stopping right as it was about to embed itself into the old man's neck. Yasuo's a nice guy. There it was, Riven understood that they both could not escape their pasts, but can embrace change. When the magistrate returned, Riven was ready to face her sentence. The council, seeing as no longer wishing for additional bloodshed, had sentenced her to years of servitude in the farms around the village, starting that of the Contes. Riven now reforged somewhat Agreed. In later years, Riven was caught, and she was forced to fight as a reckoning in the Reckoner's Arena, which is run by Darius's brother Draven. She later helped Lucian, Senna, and Vayne escape during the Harrowing in Noxus, and temporarily joined the Sentinels of Light to atone for her sins. Her whereabouts after the events of the Sentinels' Light were unknown, presumably returning to the Conti's farm. That would make a great character as well, like starting out in Noxus, and then you've got the Ionian invasion, and then she remains, and then you can introduce some more of these like Ionian characters through her. Yes, that would be quite good, I think. All right. So we've got another character here who came out after I stopped playing, so I've got no idea who this is. She has guns and an eye patch. Okay. Alright. That's all you need to know, guys. Alias the Desert Rose. Okay. Samira stares death in the eye with an unyielding confidence, seeking thrill wherever she goes. After her Shuriman home was destroyed as a child, Samira found her true calling in Noxus, where she built a reputation as a stylish daredevil taking on dangerous missions of the highest caliber. Wielding black powder pistols and a custom-engineered blade, Samira thrives in life or death circumstances, eliminating any who stand in her way with flash and flair. Well, oh my. Samira was born in the city of Amakra, in Shurima. She lived with her parents and worked with them as street artists. They dazzled, captivated, and amazed the spectators, which Samira loved. But she was worried about her parents, who, although they saw how happy their daughter was, they wished she had much more of a comfortable life than theirs. Before Samira turned 14, Amakra was attacked by a group of bandits who captured and sacrificed people in honor of an ancient wizard. Samira hid with her parents, and later they escaped from the city and arrived at Bal Zurn, a Noxian refuge. Samira, determined to prove that she was not afraid of danger, enlisted in a Noxian battalion led by Captain Indari, who, seeing Samira's bubbly and impulsive personality, made her give her a place in made her give her a place in her battalion, proving to be an excellent member. On Indari's orders, Samira travelled to the Rockon plain to dismantle a separatist group. However, the fortress in which they were based exploded. Full of emotion, Samira entered the fortress while it was falling apart, suffering a permanent wound to her left eye. Samira rescued Indari, who was seriously injured, losing sensation in her legs, and was renamed to Professor X. Indari was forced to disband her battalion, after which Samira returned to Bal Zurn. Samira tried to live the quiet life together with her parents, but being still for a long time made her too anxious, until she finally understood that she could not continue with that kind of life. Okay, that's kind of lame. I'm not going to lie, its backstory is kind of lame. Samira returned to Noxus and looked for Indari, thinking that she would understand her more than anyone. Samira proposed a new collaboration to Indari, and that it is she would be in charge of looking for mercenary jobs so that Samira would take them. She accepted, although fearing for her disciple. So, little by little, Samira's reputation rose more and more to such an extent that she was known, feared, and respected, both in Shurima and in Noxus. She travelled with the whole world, fulfilling each job. She travelled with the whole world. Okay. Fulfilling each job that Indari gave her, jumping into adventure. That's really basic. My assumption... Oh. Ooh, I like this, though. This is the ancient mage, eh? Ooh, Zerath. Okay. I'm into that. That's probably the best part of her backstory. Yeah, like, and I do wonder if, because she is, like, I don't know when she came out, maybe if she's, like, a newer character, the lore for her is very plain, very basic, because they haven't maybe, like, fully fleshed it all out. But that's kind of weak source. Anyway, Scion. So, used to be General Scion, now his alias is the Undead Juggernaut. I'm the Juggernaut, bitch. A brutal warlord from a bygone era, Scion was revered in Noxus for choking the life out of a Demacian king with his bare hands, but denied the peace of death, he was resurrected to serve his empire once more. His indiscriminate slaughter claims all who stand in his way, regardless of allegiance, proving he has retained little of his former humanity. With crude armor bolted into his rotten flesh, Scion continues to charge into battle with reckless abandon, struggling to remember his true self between the swings of his mighty axe. In life, Scion was the last of a proud warrior culture that defined early Noxus. He made his name as the Hand of Noxus, an unstoppable general in the campaign for the Empire's outward expansion. Finally, he met his end in battle when King Jarvan I of Demacia, with both men killing each other. Half a century later, Scion was reanimated by hemomancers of the Black Rose. Dark magic empowered his body, but clouded his mind, turning him into an unstoppable killing machine. Feared all the more by the enemies of Noxus. Now he remains locked away in a tomb beneath a statue of himself, always ready to be deployed when the Grand General sees fit. That's it. Okay. They reworked him and that's all you got? Wow. Okay. Alright. That's Scion. Okay. Wonder if they're going to make changes to his lore for the upcoming show. And it's just been left quite barren. We shall find out. Jericho Swain. I assume Jericho's got quite a story going on. No. Okay. Just a couple paragraphs. Alright. That's fine, I guess. So, Swain's aliases, he's got the Noxian Grand General, the Master Tactician, Grand General Swain, the Demon of Secrets, Realm. Alright. Jericho Swain is the visionary ruler of Noxus, an expansionist nation that reveres only strength. Though he was cast down and debilitated in the Ionian Wars, his left arm severed, he seized control of the Empire with ruthless determination. And a new demonic hand. Oh. Now Swain commands from the front lines, marching against a coming darkness that only he can see. In glimpses gathered by shadowy ravens from the corpses all around him. In a swirl of sacrifice and secrets, the greatest secret of all is that the true enemy lies within. Oh my God. The visions are coming from inside the house. Oh God. Jericho Swain was born into an affluent Noxian family among the established houses that trace shortly after the nation's founding. They were also favoured by the Emperor of Noxus, Borum Darkwill, having been instrumental in his rise to the throne. Yet House Swain was also among many that hungered for power, and as such were part of a secret cabal named the Black Rose. His parents were especially intent on finding some dark power hidden in the depths of the immortal bastion, that which would elude discovery for many years as it cackled in the darkness like a raven's claw. Caw. I was going to say, cackled like a claw? Raven's caw. The Cabal had aided Darkwill's political rise, but in time he rejected their influence thereafter. LeBlanc, head matriarch of the Black Rose, manipulated Swain as a young nobleman into revealing the Black Rose and executing its most prominent members, including Swain's own parents and LeBlanc herself. However, LeBlanc's execution was a deception, and she retreated back into the shadows of Noxus to wait for an opportunity to strike. For exposing the corruption, Swain was granted a commission in the Noxian army, where he would serve for years to come. Swain learned firsthand, get it? Because he's missing a hand. Yeah. Oh, God. Swain learned firsthand that the Empire's true strength was upheld not by pure Noxian ferocity, but by all its peoples united in spite of its... Oh, my God. One moment. Swain learned firsthand that the Empire's true strength was upheld not by pure Noxian ferocity, but by all its people united in spite of their origins. Goodness me. Nobles and foreign slaves alike were all seen as soldiers on the front lines. Swain had carved out his career in securing the western borders as well as expanding into Shurima, but in time, the aging emperor grew more paranoid and unhinged over his own mortality. Fighting wars on too many fronts, lusting over magical relics, greed became more clear motivation of the regime. During the invasion of Ionia, Darkwill retasked much... here we go. Sorry about that. During the invasions of Ionia, Darkwill retasked much of the warbands to hunt for artifacts that could extend mortal lifespan. With Swain's forces depleted, it became nearly impossible to engage the enemy. At the Battle of Placidum, his troops were overrun in what should have been an ambush. Swain was gravely wounded, with his knee shattered and his arm cut off. On the verge of death, he felt a familiar darkness press up upon him again as a raven approached to feed, but he would not let it take him. Staring into the bird's eyes, he saw a vision of the dark truth, that LeBlanc had seduced Darkwill with promises of extending his life, and had sent Swain to die. It was not the raven that told him this, but something deeper. This was the great power that Swain's parents had been looking for, and now he knew it could be found. Returning to Noxus, Swain was disgraced and regarded as nothing more than a cripple. Though his fragile state, Swain set about in search of that strange power, which had cackled in the darkness like a raven's caw. What he found was Rom, an ancient entity that preyed on the dying and consumed their secrets. But the man solved the puzzle even the demon did not anticipate, a way to wield its power. Swain had physically restored himself and could use magic to defeat his enemies, along with using rum to listen to the secrets of the dying. Over the course of many years, Swain amassed power, allies, and elaborate plans to kill Darkwill. In the end, it took only one night to capture the throne. Swain revealed himself to all of Noxus, leaving Darkwill dead and the throne empty. In its place, he established the Tripherax, a council of 3 members to take over responsibilities of the responsibilities of the Emperor. Together, they embodied Noxus's core values, with Swain representing vision, Darius exemplifying might, and the Faceless One embodying guile. The council was made so that no one man could rule Noxus, and if one were to divert from the foundations of strength that Noxus was built on, then the other 2 was able to keep them in check. Moreover, this insurance would counterbalance Swain should he ever befall to demonic corruption. What a good guy he is. Swain immediately pulled back the Noxian forces from Darkwill's untenable ventures. He also had conventions detailing his plans for the Empire, pardoning the noble houses that swore fealty, and allowing dissenting houses to safely leave the Empire. What a nice guy! A large part of the dissent was over the new policies that granted traditional power systems such as inheritance, lordship, personal wealth, and ownership of human property. It's a fancy name for slaves. Seeing areas of concern abroad and within, Swain sent one of the Empire's best assassins in an almost impossible task, which was Katerina, was assigned to kill the Demacian king, King Jarvan III, as well as her own father, Marcus, who has suspected ties with the Black Rose. However, Marcus intercepted the written order and managed to deter her long enough to get close to destroying Swain. The Grand General intervened in the final duel and backfired the implosive weapon to destroy Marcus instead, which we read in the Katerina lore, of course. He then congratulates Katerina on her success and revealed that the assignment was a test to find an assassin that could eliminate Swain in the event he becomes corrupt. What a good guy! Bro! Isn't he the best? Secessionists held a mineral-rich rock-run plains, crafting explosives that deterred Noxian forces from advancing. This prompted Swain to visit the campaign generals and discuss strategy. One of these was General Brannon Granth, a secret operative of the Black Rose that plotted to kill Swain. Within the meeting, he proclaimed that the battle was unwinnable without death, and revealed an explosive fuse ready to blow. Swain chuckled at the profound suggestion, agreeing that while the soldiers may die anyway, their sacrifice makes way for the greater reinforcement. He then reveals his demon arm and quickly strangles Granth. Granth and we always look for what must be sacrificed in order to win. 7 years into the Triferic's rule, delegates Aurum and Elisa from the Delverhold approached the council to negotiate concessions in response to a local crisis. The mineral export quotas becoming unstable with the dwindling... Wait, what are we talking about? Dwindling reserves at Iron Spike mines. Who are these people? The Delverhold. Okay. Alright, I'm not too sure what that's about. It's fine. I'm sure we'll soon find out. The mineral export quotas became unsustainable with the dwindling reserves in the Iron Spike mines, sinking the people into poverty. Furthermore, Aurum argued that their treaty to the Empire had been invalidated with the death of the Emperor, which permits the Delverhold to extricate from the Empire if necessary. While Swain agreed to hear the terms, Darius argued that there was no compelling bargain. Some days go by, and the delegates attempt to seize and extort the Faceless One for their vote. But in a deceptive trap, Aurum is killed by Elisa, and she is quickly captured by the guards. She is brought before the Triferix, whom were fully aware of the extortion, but recognised her dissatisfaction with the Delverhold. Swain candidly stated that the Triferix did not want to encourage other provinces to make demands as well. Elisa said that she knew the Delverhold governor would use the delegates' death to justify secession, but returning Delverhold to the kingdom rule would be a grave mistake long term. She then suggested to become governor herself in order to maintain relations with Noxus. The council agreed to that idea and sent a Trifarian entourage with her back to Delverhold to claim office. Okay. Urgot was sent away from Noxus to Zorn as part of Swain's coup, as he was seen as a liability and a potential threat to Swain's plan. Okay. Gangplank stole the Leviathan. Oh, Swain's personal warship. And the head of the Noxian fleet. Because of this, Swain despises Gangplank and wishes to see his demise. Okay. Interesting. Alright, we've got Talon, the Blade's shadow. Talon is the knife in the darkness, a merciless killer able to strike without warning and escape before any alarm is raised. He carved out a dangerous reputation on the brutal streets of Noxus, where he was forced to fight, kill, and steal to survive. adopted by the notorious family. He now plies his deadly trade at the Empire's command, assassinating enemy leaders, captains, and heroes, as well as any Noxian foolish enough to earn the scorn of their masters. Talon has no recollection of his family, nor of any warmth or kindness. He scraped out a living through his quick wits and deft thievery in the underbelly of Noxus. He learned to navigate the underground passages of Noxus and attained mastery of the blade. Marked as a threat by the Empire, assassins were sent after him. He managed to kill his pursuers, dropping their bodies into Noxus's moat. However, when Marcus himself came after Talon, the Noxian general emerged victorious in the duel. He made an offer to Talon to die or serve the Noxian High Command. Talon chose to live on the condition that he would serve the general alone because he could only respect orders from those he could not defeat. At some point, Marcus tasked Talon with helping him fake his death without anyone knowing. For years, he secretly worked with the general who promised to make him his heir after fulfilling his mission. To achieve that, he got close to Katerina, pretending to be a good brother. After Katerina was captured by Marcus and tasked to kill King Jarvan III, she returned back to Noxus, only to find Talon welcoming her back. Having realized Talon knew about Marcus this entire time, she fought with him and won, injuring his eye. I see. Ha Ooh. Talon's cool though. Talon's a very fun character to play. Excellent, and we will finish off this stream going through Vladimir. And we'll probably pick up with either Ionia or Demacia next stream, depending on my mood. Vladimir. Aliases the Crimson Reaper, the Barbarian God, Mythic and Bloodthirsty Fiend, Lord Vladimir, Patron Vladimir, and Prince Vladimir, formerly. A fiend with a thirst for mortal blood, Vladimir has influenced the affairs of Noxus since the Empire's earliest days. In addition to unnaturally extending his life, his mastery of hemomancy allows him to control the minds and bodies of others as easily as his own. In the flamboyant salons of the Noxian aristocracy, this has enabled him to build a fanatical cult of personality around himself, while in the lowest back alleys, it allows him to bleed his enemies dry. Alright. Vladimir was once a prince of Camivore, but was given away as a royal hostage to an unknown Darkin as a bargain to save the kingdom from the monster's tyranny. Should the king break faith with the Darkin, the prince would be slain. Vladimir was taken to Shurima, in which his Darkin master dwelled at. He was given the permission to write and sent customary letters to his kingdom, but his letters were all ignored. He eventually learned that his father had broken his oath within the year. Because his father had sons and heirs aplenty, the death of Vladimir would mean nothing to the king. Surprisingly, instead of getting killed as he expected, his Darkin master had something altogether more amusing in mind. The Darkin offered Vladimir the chance to lead his armies against his father's kingdom, an offer he gladly accepted. He destroyed his father's kingdom, and he presented his father's head to his master as a way to prove his loyalty. Believing himself above other mortal vassals, his devotion earned him a place of favour in his patron's war host, and learning hemomancy despite the Despite the Darkin's teaching, their secrets to mortals was forbidden under pain of death. His master delighted in flaunting the mores of his kind. Over time, the god warrior watched with amusement as Vladimir came to govern his subjects with little mercy as the Darkins themselves. His Darkin master would later teach other mortal blood magic, but none were capable to be near as talented as Vladimir, right? Eventually, near the end of the Great Darken War, the enemies of the Darkans united. The Darkan Master instructed Vladimir to lead his armies in his defense against his unified enemies. Unknown to all but Vladimir himself, he had already found a method to kill a god warrior. Vladimir killed him instead and absorbed his power. Scarred, blinded, driven mad by the radiance of a Darkan's undoing, he absorbed enough power to renew flesh that was never meant to last beyond a mortal lifespan. Few surviving mortals fled, taking what knowledge they had of blood magic with them. At some point after the war ended, Vladimir moved to the Blessed Isles, aka Shadow Isles, expanding his knowledge on magic and began collecting various magical artifacts. So, at the height of the reign of the Iron Revenant, it was said that a mythic and bloodthirsty fiend haunted the coastal cliffs of eastern Valoran, demanding young lives and savage worship from the several local barbarian Noxus tribes. Few were welcome in his lair until the day a pale sorceress LeBlanc approached this barbarian god with an offer. The two feasted together as equals, weaving magic so dark that, as we've read before, the wine at the tables turned sour, and the roses withered, vibrant red turning to black. This encounter would result in the formation of the Black Rose, and so began the pact between Vladimir and LeBlanc. Vladimir then rallied all the Noxus tribes and led the siege. The Iron Revenant was ultimately defeated by them. This alliance neutralized the source of his power, the immortal Bastion. They managed to sever the anchors of his soul from his armor, as well as sealed the empty iron shell away in a secret place. Thus, Mordekaiser's reign was ended, and he was cast out of the material realm. Upon a visit of General Callista, that's a champion too, isn't it? Callista. On the Blessed Isles, Vladimir received the news of the current king of Carnivore and his wife. He attempted to contact the king and wrote a letter to him, but the grief-stricken Vago refused to respond. Oh, yes. Not knowing Vladimir had left the power and knowledge that could save her life. When Vigo sailed for the Blessed Isles with his armies, Vladimir foresaw a big disaster is approaching and left the region soon after, narrowly avoided the ruination of Helia. Basically, and also the Blessed Isles turning into the Shadow Isles, which, as I said, would make a great show. After Helia fell into the ruination, the remnants of the ancient order from the Blessed Isles, whose mission had been to gather and protect the most dangerous artifacts in Runeterra, struggled to keep knowledge of the world runes hidden. Political tensions follow, as nations are unwilling to trust one another of fear of being unwittingly destroyed by these runes. The leaders of the two rival Noxus tribes pled with Tyrus of Helia in parley at the village of Come. The encounter ended with in the complete destruction of Com, and the surrounding territories by the power of the two world runes. During the Rune Wars, Vladimir and the last of the Noxus were forced to retreat inside the immortal Bastion for shelter from the magical fallout resulted from the almost apocalyptic battle. When they finally emerged, the land beyond had been ravaged, but they survived. From that day onward, they were alloyed as a single people, no longer as Noxus, but Noxus. The Noxian capital, Noxus Prime, was built center at the still unbreachable immortal Bastion. This event marks the resurgence of civilizations and the beginning of the Noxian calendar. And have marked their calendar from this date ever since. Over the centuries, others joined them, powerful nobles, exalted masters of magic, and beings of darker still. Rife with rife with dispute and games of politics and war, Black Rose grew into a hidden power that would guide the throne of Noxus for more than 1,000 years, orchestrating many of the Empire's most ambitious campaigns. Noxus starts to forcefully annex numerous territories alongside the eastern borders, after a series of forced annexations and the fall of the Darkened Gate. The strength of Noxus grew to match its ambitions. During the Battle of the Green Fangs, a skilled order of Noxian war mages led by Vladimir, known as the Arcane Fist, bombarded the Demacian troops for 13 days. Afterwards, the Colossus with wings, mirroring the image of the winged sisters known as Galio, awakened for the first time. Galio protected the Demacian soldiers during their defense against the invading war mages and single-handedly defeated the entire mage army. Once all the invading mages were defeated and had withdrawn, Galio returned to his pedestal and ceased to move. This bizarre tale was told in hushed tones by the few that had survived the battle, and was usually received with silent incredulity. As the years would go by, the story of Galio and Battle of the Green Fangs would eventually be seen as nothing more than a mere legend. At some point afterward, Vladimir withdrew into seclusion, and was absent during the First Demacian-Noxian War. Over the half-century following the war, Demacia would end up freeing the countries of central Valoran from Noxian dominance, pushing the Noxian back towards their capital. The ruling Grand General of the Empire, Borum Darkwill, was willing to pay almost any price to restore Noxus's lost glory and made an alliance with the Black Rose. With the help from Vladimir, LeBlanc spearheaded the resurrection ritual to reanimate the long-dead hero Scion, and presented him to the Grand General. Scion, driven mad by unnatural bloodlust and utterly injured to pain, that's a weird way, he hurled himself like a living battering ram against allies and foes alike, destroying all he faced. The victories Scion brought were costly. After several battles, Scion's bloodlust was deemed uncontrollable, and Borum Darkwill ordered for his imprisonment. With the unexpected death of Darkwill and the rise of Swain as the new Grand General, the political landscape of the Empire changed dramatically, and Vladimir has been forced to ruse himself once more. Wearing a guise of a benevolent socialite, he has returned to the public eye as a vocal opponent to the ruling Tripharax Council. Much to the concern of the more cautious members of the Black Rose, his reappearance may have come too soon, as time has not yet washed away all the stains of his previous lifetime, and it seems likely that Swain himself has begun to grasp Vladimir's true nature. Vladimir has been passive for too long, but now he's ready to take what is his, that which was for so long denied to him, a kingdom of his own. Under Vladimir's tutelage, the art of hemomancy has found a place in the military of Noxus and amongst scions of the old aristocracy. Among these diverse practitioners is the Crimson Circle, a youthful cult dedicated to Vladimir as much as to blood magic itself. Oh, Maokai. The night blooms grown in his mansion were taken from a grove once tended by Maokai. Vladimir also dwelled in the Blessed Isles after... Yep. Okay. Alright. Hey, man. That's pretty cool, y'all. Alrighty. So, look... As mentioned, that'll be the streamy weemy for today, folks. So we went through all of the little bits and bobs, like just paragraphs of events and lore and that kind of stuff, the characters that we may be seeing. Again, if we get all 3 locations, we're probably only going to be seeing a small amount of characters from each location, which is what it is. It's not the worst thing in the world, really. But, it is almost one of those things where it's like, maybe we should focus in on one area at a time, right? Because we've got a lot of stuff to deal with, yeah? But, no, look, as mentioned, we shall pick up the next stream, going through either Demacia or Ionia, going through the lore and the characters there. For me, again, it will be seeing some of these new characters that I've got no clue about, and just kind of refreshing some of the lore and the canon for me in like 5 years' time when the new show comes, right? Alright, guys, thank you all very much. Thank you all for watching, and I will catch you in the next friggin' video, y'all.